Chapter 78. Now that you have found me, you are worried that my cooperation with you will arouse Bu Tiantai's suspicions, and you want to stay out of it? Yet you say that I shouldn't have found you? Chu Yang sighed. You are already so old. Why are you speaking so incoherently? Ha 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 ha. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Tai Long Cheng's guards glared at him. But Tai Long Cheng himself laughed heartily and walked out in large strides. When he reached the door, he turned around and looked at Chu Yang. I really like your swords, but 100,000 taels of gold is too expensive. I do have a lot of treasures. But I still have to keep them to save the lives of my soldiers, so I can't exchange them. But I really like your swords, what should I do? Chu Yang was speechless. He had never seen such a thick-skinned person. It was clear that he wanted Chu Yang to give him a sword. He said angrily, but I also can't bear to part with these swords, so I naturally can't give them to anyone. And the one I can't give them to the most is you. Ha ha ha. Tai Long Cheng laughed heartily. He wiped the tears from his eyes and said, Little one, you will give them to me, I promise. At that time I will pretend that I don't want them. I will make you give them to me several times before I reluctantly accept them. Just you wait. After he finished, he laughed heartily again. Leaving behind such a brainless sentence, he turned around and walked out the door. You want me to beg you? Then you just wait. Chu Yang snorted. The sky is not dark yet, but you are already dreaming. Outside the door, the sound of soldiers moving could be heard. In just a few breaths of time, all the soldiers on the street had left. During this time there was not a single sound. In the distance there was a faint noise. The street began to recover. Chu Yang turned around and was about to say something, but his mouth suddenly opened wide. There was only Gu Duxing left in front of him. That strange girl had disappeared without him knowing. When she came here, it seemed like she only asked for the price and did nothing else. She just disappeared like that. Why did she leave? Chu Yang scratched his head. Who cares if she left or not? I only want to ask you. Gu Duxing looked at him deeply. Are you going to intervene in the war between Iron Cloud Nation and Great Zhao Nation? Chu Yang nodded slightly and said, Yes. This is a very unwise decision. You and I are just martial artists. You should know what a martial artist is. You know the status of martial artists in the lower three heavens, and the attitude of the imperial courts of the various countries towards martial artists. Moreover, both the imperial court and the battlefield are much more dangerous than the Jianghu. I don't think this is a good decision. I know that this is not the path of a martial artist. I also know that it is dangerous. I also know that as long as I throw myself into it, I will die without a burial place at any time. However, I have a reason to intervene. Chu Yang looked at Gu Duxing and said deeply, You would rather die 10,000 times than not save Gu Miaoling. I have the same reason as you. Gu Duxing looked into Chu Yang's eyes. He could see that in Chu Yang's eyes, there was a hidden deep pain and expectation. In fact, his feelings for her were even deeper than his feelings for Gu Miaoling. Gu Duxing nodded slowly. At this moment he suddenly understood why Chu Yang wanted to help him save Gu Miaoling. Although Chu Yang did not say it clearly, Gu Duxing already knew his feelings. Because Chu Yang also had such a beautiful woman. Therefore he would not allow such a beautiful woman to die just like that. He would not allow such sincere and beautiful feelings to be annihilated with the wind. At this moment, Gu Duxing's heart was moved. If you feel that it is dangerous, it is not too late to back out now. Chu Yang said lightly, I will still do what I promised you. I also want to back out. But I also know that the fastest place to improve one's cultivation is the battlefield. Gu Duxing suddenly smiled. Moreover, his smile was unexpectedly bright. Moreover, I have already promised you that I will sell my 10 years to you. Although I want to back out, I value my promise more. He blinked and said, You only know that you keep your promise. But you don't want me to be a person who goes back on my words, right? Chu Yang fixed his gaze on him for a long time. Finally he smiled and said, Yes, I thought that you would go back on your words. I really did not expect that you would not. Gu Duxing laughed and punched him hard on the shoulder. The two looked at each other and suddenly laughed. At this moment, a kind of brotherly feeling of going through life and death together slowly grew in each other's hearts. If you can work hard for me, I can work hard for you. It is that simple. These two youths at this moment truly recognized each other. But neither of them said it out loud. Instead, they used the excuse of keeping their promise to hide their sincerity. But both of them knew that the other knew what they knew. At this moment their smiles were very warm. Surrounded by the troops, Tai Long Cheng and the young girl were talking in a low voice. Tai Long Cheng said, This person can be used. Very useful. The young girl said, Oh? Is that so? You don't have to be so sarcastic with me. What are you doing here? And you came here alone? This person wants to deal with Diwu Qingro. Although I do not know the reason, when Heavenly Armament Pavilion opened, the two words Heavenly Armament, let me know his intentions. Tai Longqing smiled. There is no need to doubt this. No one would be stupid enough to open Heavenly Armament Pavilion in Iron Cloud. Because these two words are taboo in Iron Cloud. But he opened it. So I think that this person does not know what happened before. The young girl nodded and suddenly turned her head. Second uncle, is it because of this? So, yes, it is because of this that I came here. Because he met you at the city gate and you showed a bit too much interest in him. It is a good thing to be thirsty for talent, but you are still young. Although I am old, I can still help you look at people. Tai Longqing smiled. I just did not think that you would come so quickly. Then everything that second uncle said to him must be true, right? The young girl smiled thoughtfully. Every word is a hint? Second uncle is indeed wise. Ha, he wants to deal with Diwu Qingro and you appeared here. Of course I will let him know how much effort we have put in to deal with Diwu Qingro. This is a prerequisite. However, there are some secrets that I do not know about. But this has opened up the scars in your heart. The young girl took a deep breath and said, I know that in the entire Iron Cloud Nation, the person who does not want to talk about the past is you, second uncle. But today you took the initiative to bring it up. Second uncle is doing this for me. It is also for Iron Cloud. Tai Longqing walked in silence. His face was stiff. Not wanting to talk about it does not mean it did not happen. Since you plan to use this person, then the more he knows, the better. There will be a day when second uncle cannot go to the battlefield. I do not want you to make a wrong judgment because of the old history. So I must talk about it. The scars must be opened. Chapter 79. Even though this person can be used, we still need to guard against him. He wants to deal with Diwu Qingro. There is no doubt about this. But for what reason he never said. The strangest thing is that in his eyes, there is no power. That is the most surprising part. Tai Butian pondered. Could it be that heaven above? Are you talking about the trial? That is possible. But if that is the case, your identity cannot be exposed. But there has been no such legend for a long time. Seize the time. Let the intelligence agents search everywhere to see if there are any strange but powerful youths. Tai Longqing said casually, if there are and there is more than one, then we can be sure. But we still need to keep our distance from those people. Of course. They can be used but they cannot be controlled. This Chu Yang is an abandoned disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. The girl pondered and said slowly. Her voice was so slow that it seemed as if it would break at any moment. Abandoned disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect? It can't be, right? Wu Yunliang is willing to abandon such a talent? I also think it is strange. The girl said, moreover, I think that the person next to him is from that place. The person next to him? The young man next to him is also very scary. Moreover, his origin seems to be even more mysterious than Chu Yang. He just appeared out of nowhere. But no matter what, he listens to Chu Yang. So, we just need to see what Chu Yang does. In addition, find a way to contact Wu Yunliang of Beyond the Heavens sect. I want to ask him. Okay. Tell the Ministry of Justice that there is no need to investigate the case of the Heavenly Bandit. Tai Butian laughed. After investigating this and that, if they really find something, then you and I will have to clean up his mess. So second uncle also thought of this. The girl's face turned red. Obviously, she was shy about this vulgar phrase, clean up his mess. Everyone has to clean up their mess. Tai Longqing laughed. But after saying this, the girl pondered for a moment. Her eyes lit up. Although this phrase was vulgar, it seemed to contain some profound meaning. At a fork in the road, the girl parted ways with Tai Longqing. She waved her hand and lightly walked away. Then she turned a corner and disappeared. Tai Longqing watched the girl disappear from his sight before he let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the girl's back, his eyes were filled with pity. He sighed heavily and muttered, the burden of Iron Cloud is very difficult to bear. No matter how difficult it is, as long as Marshall is here, Iron Cloud will always exist. The deputy general beside him said with great respect. It seemed that he had unparalleled confidence in Tai Longqing. I am only a marshal, not. Iron Cloud Qing shook his head and did not finish his sentence. He shouted, let's go back. Not far ahead was the Heavenly Might Manor. The Heaven's Might Manor was Tai Longqing's residence. Tai Longqing's title in Iron Cloud Nation was Tianwei Prince. I'm old. It's time for me to make way for the younger generation. Tai Longqing thought silently and ordered, "From now on, all military matters, no matter how big or small, must be reported to His Highness at the same time. As long as there is no all-out war, don't expect me to make any more decisions. This old man needs to rest for a few years." This. Everyone who heard this was shocked. "Yes, I'll be fine," Tai Longqing said casually. "If he can't handle it, then there is no need for this nation to exist." These words were said with deep meaning. Although Tai Longqing had left, his prohibition order had not been lifted. At Chu Yang's place there were still a lot of people watching, but no one dared to come in. But the two people in the restaurant were not worried at all. It was close to noon. Gu Duxing grabbed a lot of silver and went out to buy some food. The table was filled with food and wine, and the two ate and drank to their heart's content. Just as the wine was being poured, Gu Duxing picked up the bowl and said, "Chu Yang, I toast you." "Good. I really don't want to drink this bowl of wine." "What? After drinking this bowl of wine, I Gu Duxing will no longer be Duxing. It doesn't match my name at all." "Then why don't you change your name to Gu Shuangfei?" "That's fine, but will you have a threesome with me or will I have a threesome with you?" "Get lost. You'll have a threesome with two pigs." Haha. After 3 rounds of wine, there were already 2 empty wine jars on the floor. The other 2 jars on the table were also half empty. These jars were 5 pounds of wine, and they were the best of the best. Gu Duxing's tongue was already a little big. "Chu Yang, I can see that you are very strong, but I really don't understand which clan do you come from. It doesn't make sense. In this world there is actually someone who I Gu Duxing admire? This shouldn't be. I don't have a clan." Chu Yang was silent for a moment. He picked up the bowl and drank it in one gulp. "No clan? I am an orphan. Strictly speaking, I am an abandoned child." Chu Yang laughed mischievously and tears came out of his eyes. "I don't even know my name. This name was given to me by my master." There was a moment of silence. "That's good, at least you still have hope. I don't know which corner of this world you still have parents." Gu Duxing sighed. "I have parents and I also know my name, but my parents were killed. I will never see them again. Cheers. Let's drink, let's drink." "Yes, let's drink, let's not talk about this. Chu Yang, before I met you, I didn't have a brother. Now I have one." "You have one? Where is he? Why don't I see him?" "It doesn't matter if you don't see him. It's fine as long as I see him, haha." "Brother? What is a brother?" "Brother, haha, a brother is a brother, not a thing." Gu Duxing laughed. "If there is a mountain of knives in front of a brother, then I am willing to step over the mountain of knives. This is a brother. Even if my brother doesn't treat me as a brother, as long as I treat him as a brother, then he is my brother." Gu Duxing was finally drunk. He stood up shakily and suddenly punched himself in the chest and roared to the sky, "For more than 10 years, I have never been so happy. I'm so happy." After he finished speaking, he suddenly fell asleep on the table. Chu Yang's eyes were already somewhat hazy, but he still held the bowl of wine and poured it into his mouth. After he drank the bowl, he suddenly paused and muttered repeatedly, "If there is a mountain of knives in front of a brother, then I am willing to step over the mountain of knives. This is a brother. Even if my brother doesn't treat me as a brother, as long as I treat him as a brother, then he is my brother." He suddenly nodded and then shook his head. He smiled and muttered to himself, "If you can treat your brother like this, then your brother will naturally treat you like this. Brothers are each other, first there is a brother, then there is a younger brother. It is 2 people and not 1 person singing a one-man show." His eyes looked into the void and he said in a low and deep voice, "My brother won't sing a one-man show either." These words were spoken in a very low voice, but they were powerful and resonating. A trace of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. At this moment he thought of Tan Tan, and thought of that brother who had obtained only 1 treasure in his life and wanted to give it to him. He was also a brother. Then he directly lifted the wine jar and poured it into his mouth. The wine splashed everywhere. The consequence of this drinking session was that the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was directly closed. The 2 people slept soundly in the hall. There was an endless stream of people coming and going outside the door, but the sound of snoring came from inside the door, and the fragrance of wine and meat wafted in the air. The 2 people indulged themselves for once. Both of them knew that from today onwards, they would probably never be able to relax like today. The 2 people woke up in the afternoon, and their bodies were already dripping wet. The 2 people looked at each other and suddenly laughed in unison. At this moment, a knocking sound came from outside the door. "Excuse me, is Chu Yang here?" It was the voice of a young girl. Chu Yang was startled. This voice was very familiar. It was Wu Qianqian's voice. Chapter 80. When he opened the door, he saw Wu Qianqian standing outside. She was wearing a green robe. Chu Yang, it really is you. Wu Qianqian looked at Chu Yang with a complicated expression. She did not even dream that Chu Yang would suddenly come to Iron Cloud Citadel. Moreover, he immediately attracted the attention of Grand Elder Butian. When Tai Butian asked her, Wu Qianqian did not believe that the talkative Chu Yang was the same person she saw at Purple Bamboo Garden. Wu Qianqian thought that it was just a coincidence. There must be another talented young man with the same name as Chu Yang. Even though Purple Bamboo Garden's Chu Yang was smart, his cultivation was too low to be evaluated by Grand Elder Butian. But now, when this familiar face appeared in front of her, she no longer had any doubts. Senior Wu, why are you here? Chu Yang asked with some surprise. What, I can't come? As Wu Qianqian spoke, her face turned red. She remembered what Du Shiqing said to Grand Elder Butian. This young man's life is really pitiful. He fell in love with his senior sister, but his senior brother wanted to steal her away. In a moment of impulse, he killed his senior brother. Ah, what a pity for this talent. His senior martial sister seemed to be the female manager of Beyond the Heavens sect. Thinking about this, Wu Qianqian's face became hot. Female head of Beyond the Heavens sect? Father only has one female head. Could it be that Chu Yang likes me? But, this matter was so sudden and unexpected. Ah, you can come, you can come. Chu Yang scratched his head and took a step back. Senior sister, please come in. You are no longer a disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. Father has already sent an order to expel you from the sect. You cannot be called senior sister. Wu Qianqian felt that it was a pity. Chu Yang was expelled from the sect just like that? In addition, Wu Qianqian wanted to use this opportunity to put some distance between the two of them. This was Iron Cloud Citadel after all. This was the Iron Cloud Citadel. If something happened, Chu Yang would not care, but she would lose the face of Beyond the Heavens sect. Then I'll call you younger sister. Chu Yang patted his head and said, it seems that you're older than me. I'll call you Qianqian, elder sister? Wu Qianqian's charming face blushed as she said angrily, why are you being so glib? Come with me. Go with you. The Empress Dowager sent me to invite you. I really can't see what's so good about you that the Empress Dowager actually wants to see you. Wu Qianqian rolled her eyes at him. If he wants to see me, then I won't go. Chu Yang calmly smiled and said, if he wants you to invite me, then I will go. See him and invite him were two different things. It was related to Tai Butian's attitude. From beginning to end, he had surrounded Tai Butian with his news. His eyes were sharp and his agility was shocking. Du Shiqing spared no effort in flattering him, and Heavenly Armament Pavilion was unstoppable. Now there was Tai Longcheng's recommendation. Tai Longcheng's recommendation was also added. Tai Longcheng would definitely explain this matter to Tai Butian when he saw him. Of this, Chu Yang was certain. And Tai Longcheng's description would prove another thing. Chu Yang's conjecture was incomparable wisdom. His accurate judgment of the world's situation and his thorough understanding of Di Wu Qing Ro. All of this was related to the survival of Iron Cloud Nation and the outcome of the battle between Tai Butian and Di Wu Qing Ro. If Tai Butian did not want to see him, then that would be the strangest thing. Ever since Chu Yang left Beyond the Heavens sect and joined Du Shiqing's team, he had been planning for this day. And this day had finally arrived. At this critical juncture, Chu Yang naturally would not give up this opportunity to raise his status. The Empress Dowager sent me to invite you. Is this okay? Wu Qianqian snappily said, the Empress Dowager knew that I knew you, so she specifically sent me here. Plus, there were 10 guards from the Empress Dowager escorting me. The carriage that came was the Empress Dowager's personal carriage. 10 precious horses flanked the carriage. This is the Empress Dowager's courtesy. In all these years, no one in Iron Cloud Nation has been able to enjoy this kind of treatment. Chu Yang could not help but be surprised. He also thought that Tai Butian would send someone to invite him, but he really did not think that it would be such a grand invitation. Big Boss Chu was swaying as he sat in an extremely luxurious carriage. In front of him there were 8 imposing golden-armored knights. 4 of them were leading the way. They were sitting on white horses that were as white as snow. There wasn't a single strand of hair on them. In the middle of the procession, there were 2 golden-armored knights guarding the carriage. Behind the procession, there were 4 golden-armored knights guarding the rear. In addition, there were 10 soldiers in silver armor. Each one of them was standing straight like a statue. When they walked, they raised their arms, raised their feet, and landed on the ground. No matter which direction one looked at them, they were all in a straight line. They were extremely uniform. The orderly footsteps, the sculpture-like faces of the soldiers, their resolute gazes, and their majestic formation formed a unique scenery. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and tried his best to put on a calm face. He sat there solemnly. But in his heart he was thinking, "Wow, this is too mighty. When the world is at peace, I will also have a troop like this. No matter where I go, I will bring them with me. How cool." However, even though it was very cool, Chu Yang still pulled the curtain tightly. If he showed his face, Diwu Qingro would probably know tomorrow that Tai Budian invited him. That would not be a good thing. Safety first. "Mr. Chu has graced us with your presence. Butian is very grateful. Please sit." Tai Budian was gentle and elegant. His white robe was spotless like a tree facing the wind. His smile was very friendly. Unexpectedly, the place where Tai Butian received Chu Yang was Butian Pavilion. Moreover, along the way they did not see even half a shadow. It was as if the meeting between the two of them was an extremely secret. The place where they met was a small lake behind Butian Pavilion. There was an island in the middle of the lake, and there was a pavilion on the island. The guards escorted Chu Yang to the island and then left. Chu Yang looked at Tai Budian. His eyes were calm and unmoved. It had to be said that Tai Butian's courteous treatment had once made his heart warm up for a moment. But now that feeling had disappeared. If it was any other person of the same age, they might be so grateful that they would shed tears and be loyal to him from then on. But Chu Yang was a monster who had experienced 2 lives. It was already good enough that his heart was moved a little. "Your Highness, may I know what instructions you have for me?" Chu Yang was not in a hurry. "I don't dare to talk about instructions. Mr. Chu is very talented. You should know why I have met you today." Tai Budian smiled gently. "I am ignorant and do not understand the meaning of the Supreme." Tai Budian sighed softly. He stood with his hands behind his back and turned to look at the calm surface of the lake. He said lightly, "Mr. Chu comes from a faction of the pugilistic world. You should know the situation of the world. Although the imperial court and the pugilistic world are clearly separated, they are fundamentally of the same origin. There is no distinction between them. If the imperial court is the circle of power that dominates everything, then the pugilistic world is a subcircle of power." Tai Budian said quietly, "The reason why it is called a subcircle of power is to say that it is a substitute. Only when this group of people in power has reached a certain level, when the people are in dire straits, there will be heroes who will rise up and call for help. They will replace it. And the new power of the imperial court will definitely come from the pugilistic world. Or they will borrow some power from the imperial court. But the dominant power will be the people of the pugilistic world. After a series of changes, this group will form its own power, its own circle and its own rules of conduct. The one who succeeds in the end will become the leader of the imperial court." Chu Yang thought carefully and finally nodded slowly. He said, "The words of the Supreme are indeed true." He recalled the changes in the world in the past few thousand years. Countless countries had fallen and countless countries had risen. They had indeed followed this path. The new regime had indeed risen from the pugilistic world. Although most of them were destroyed, there were also many who succeeded. Chapter 81. My ancestors were once a great clan in the pugilistic world. Back then, the Tai clan of the Eastern Mountain was also a force to be reckoned with before they entered the imperial court. Tai Budian didn't look back at all. He continued slowly, "However, once a faction in the pugilistic world becomes the master of the imperial court, then it will have to abide by the rules of the imperial court. The pugilistic world's methods may be able to govern a clan or a group of people, but it cannot govern a country. This is the limitation of the pugilistic world. Therefore, when it comes to this point, it is inevitable to give up some things in exchange for some things. And those things that are given up are often meritorious ministers. The pugilistic world is the pugilistic world of brothers, while the imperial court is the imperial court of the emperor and his subjects. If a subject treats the emperor as a brother, then he will definitely be purged by his brother. Since ancient times, when the cunning rabbit is dead, the hound is cooked. When the birds are gone, the bow is put away. When the war is over, the cavalry is gone. When the emperor and his subjects rise, the brothers perish. This saying is rather heartless, but it is necessary. Those who sigh that the hound is cooked after the cunning rabbit is dead are all losers. The so-called emperor, after giving up all these, still has to bear the infamy of the ages. Only when he can bear all these, then he is qualified to be an emperor. Governing a country cannot be based on feelings or brothers, it must be based on methods and laws. This is the biggest conflict between the imperial court and the pugilistic world. Chu Yang frowned. He pondered over these words with a heavy heart, guessing what Tai Budian meant by these words. Therefore the emperor is heartless. Tai Budian concluded. Because if the emperor is sentimental, then he cannot govern the country well. Everyone knows how valuable and reliable a brother is. But when a brother becomes arrogant because of the emperor's favor, even if he knows that this brother is still loyal to him, he can only bear the pain and get rid of him. He can only cry silently in his dreams at night, or face the torrential infamy of the world when he is awake. Using such a price in exchange for political stability and world peace. Tai Budian turned back and looked at Chu Yang. Mr. Chu has no intention of joining the imperial court. The reason why Mr. Chu has come to Ironcloud is to use the identity of a pugilistic man to borrow the power of Ironcloud to overthrow Diwu Qingru. Tai Budian said deeply, this is Mr. Chu's main purpose in coming to Ironcloud. Mr. Chu does not want to be Butian's minister, but to work with Budian. What mending the heavens couldn't do, Mr. Chu will do it in the martial world. This is Mr. Chu's method and thought. The reason is that Mr. Chu has the pride of a Jianghu man. This kind of arrogance would not let Mr. Chu be willing to submit to anyone. I am even more unwilling to be ordered around by others. He smiled with a hint of sadness and asked slowly, Mr. Chu, I wonder if Butian is right? Chu Yang was horrified. Looking at Tai Butian's eyes, which were so clear that they didn't seem to contain any impurities, his heart was shaken. This Tai Budian had actually figured out his thoughts during the first conversation between the two of them. Chu Yang's evaluation of this Grand Elder Butian immediately rose to a whole new level due to his ingenuity. You're right. Chu Yang's eyes were half closed as he said lightly, that's exactly what I meant. Haha. Tai Budian smiled bitterly. After a while he said, today is the first time I have met Mr. Chu and I want to make this clear. Because if Mr. Chu does things with this mentality, there will be conflicts between us. And this conflict is the conflict between the imperial court and Jianghu. It cannot be reconciled. You worry too much. Chu Yang said casually, what the Grand Supreme is worried about is the conflict after the world is at peace. However, I have no interest in the power of the imperial court. Once Diwu Qingru is defeated, from that moment on, the Grand Supreme will never see me again. I know that Mr. Chu will definitely make this choice. Tai Budian sighed deeply, but I also know that when that time comes, there are countless places and links in Ironcloud that cannot be separated from Mr. Chu. Once Mr. Chu leaves, it will cause uncontrollable turmoil in Ironcloud Nation. Your Highness, may I ask how old you are this year? Chu Yang asked. I have wasted 10 years. Tai Butian's eyes were filled with melancholy and disappointment. You are too immersed in politics and the art of the emperor. Chu Yang said coldly, everything is measured by the imperial court. Everything is decided by the mind. Everything is decided by the interests of the people. Everything is judged by the big picture. This is too tiring. It is also unnecessary. There are so many things to consider, but there is one thing that should be considered the most, but there is not enough consideration. That is life and death, victory and defeat. Chu Yang coldly said, right now, Ironcloud Nation is like a candle in the wind on the verge of collapse. Great Zhao is 10 times stronger than Ironcloud. Great Zhao's 10 dragon and tiger generals are all great commanders. Diwu Qingru is even more powerful in Great Zhao. His mind is as cold as ice, overlooking the world and playing this game of chess as he pleases. Ironcloud could be destroyed at any time. The lives of millions of people are only a matter of time. In the face of such a huge crisis, Grand Elder is thinking about politics after the world is at peace. Chu Yang sneered, I don't know where Grand Elder gets such great confidence or perhaps arrogance. But if Grand Elder holds on to this belief and confronts Diwu Qingru, then I, Chu Yang, might as well live in seclusion. Out of sight, out of mind. Tai Butian's expression changed and he looked deeply at Chu Yang. Suddenly he bowed to the ground and said, Mr. Chu is right. Budian has learned. Now is indeed not the time to think about these things. After meeting, the two of them had already had a verbal contest. From the looks of it, Chu Yang had the upper hand. Tai Butian's words were to dispel Chu Yang's original beliefs and make Chu Yang willing to be a subject. Although what he said was true, it was still too serious and biased. But Chu Yang's counterattack clearly expressed that his decision was not to be changed. Moreover, it pointed out that Tai Butian's mentality was wrong. What he said was naturally too exaggerated. Even without Tai Butian's rebuttal, Chu Yang himself knew that Tai Butian had been struggling to survive under Diwu Qingrou's pressure. How could he not consider life, death, victory, and defeat? Tai Butian was probably thinking about it every day, every hour, every moment. Therefore, Chu Yang's counterattack was only using a loophole in his words. It wasn't that Tai Butian really thought that way. Tai Butian used the overall situation of the world to pressure Chu Yang, and Chu Yang used Diwu Qingrou to intimidate him, using the lives of millions of people of Iron Cloud Nation to pressure him. Both of them went overboard with their words, but they both understood each other's true intentions. Yet, neither of them said it directly, because it would be too sharp. Tai Butian couldn't afford to lose, and similarly, Chu Yang couldn't break off relations. Between the two of them, a delicate situation had formed. Pressing back and forth, Tai Butian's last sentence showed weakness and ended the prelude to this battle of words. It meant that Tai Butian would no longer work on this aspect today. Senior Chu's words are indeed sharp. Tai Butian smiled. The Supreme Highness is also advancing step by step. Chu Yang also smiled. Senior Chu, you have spent a lot of effort on this journey. First, you showed yourself, and with the momentum of a thunderbolt and lightning, shook Butian's heart and made me want to recruit you. Then, with the help of Divine Dr. Du along the way, you made use of Butian's weakness of being thirsty for talent to further arouse my urgency. Chapter 82. I don't want to follow the path planned by others, but I have no choice but to follow Mr. Chu's arrangements. Although I feel aggrieved, I can still enjoy it. Mr. Chu has already gained the upper hand. You're just a commoner, but you've created an outstanding identity for yourself with your own efforts. You've even used all sorts of schemes to express your unwillingness to be under others, so that I can't force you. I can only discuss military and national affairs in the capacity of a partner. Tai Butian smiled helplessly and shook his head lightly. Mr. Chu is all alone, yet he was able to create such a situation. The ingenuity of his intentions, the accuracy of his calculations, and the precision of his grasp of the situation, really makes me want to prostrate myself in admiration. Mr. Chu deserves to be called a talent. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and smiled. I've always welcomed such compliments. The more the better. Now that the negotiation time had passed and Tai Butian had already given in, Chu Yang naturally had to relax and ease the atmosphere. Tai Butian was stunned. Then he couldn't help but burst into laughter. He hurriedly woke up and covered his mouth with his hand. Then he wiped the corners of his mouth without leaving a trace and said with a smile, Mr. Chu is really humorous. At this moment, Chu Yang felt a chill run down his spine and almost wanted to flee. What was two? Could a woman become two? That was a princess, okay? However, Tai Butian was clearly a man, yet at this moment he was behaving like a woman. Covering his mouth and laughing, his eyes rolling. Chu Yang's eyes widened and the corners of his mouth twitched. Heavens! You asked me to reverse fate in history, but you want me to work with a transvestite? Chu Yang only felt his heart twitching. He finally understood. No wonder this guy cultivated that icy heart divine technique. With such a demeanor, if he didn't cultivate that, it would really be a pity. When he saw Tai Butian wipe his mouth as if to cover it up and then act like he was swallowing the world, Chu Yang only felt sweat all over his body. In an instant the world was spinning. Mr. Chu? Mr. Chu? Tai Butian saw that he was in a daze and asked. Chu Yang instinctively felt cold sweat seeping out of his forehead. Thinking that he would have to work with such a transvestite for at least 2 years, Chu Yang suddenly felt that his future was dark and his life was full of tragedies. Mr. Chu, given the current situation of Iron Cloud, if Mr. Chu is in charge, where should we start? Tai Butian smiled, seemingly unaware of the change in Chu Yang's mood, and asked in an increasingly reserved manner. Well, I need to think about it first. Chu Yang held his forehead with one hand and pretended to be in deep thought. He didn't even need to think about it. The scene just now was simply too shocking. To resist foreign aggression, I must first pacify the internal situation. Chu Yang forcibly operated the Tribulation Heaven divine technique to suppress his churning thoughts. To resist foreign aggression, one must first pacify internal affairs. Tai Butian couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. How familiar were these words? The first time he heard these words, the Iron Cloud Nation's royal court underwent a great change. The second time he heard these words, 3 million soldiers were turned into skeletons on the battlefield. The third time he heard these words in the royal court, Imperial Uncle Tai Longqing raised his butcher's knife and killed all the martial artists in the royal court. Blood flowed like rivers. Now that Chu Yang was here, the first thing he said was still these words. Could it be that another reign of terror was coming? That's right. Tai Budian smiled and said, but the problem is, the external enemies are in the open while the internal enemies are in the dark. It's just a selection. Chu Yang smiled confidently. What if I entrust this matter to Mr. Chu? Tai Budian smiled and formally asked for cooperation. Not enough. Chu Yang shook his head. Not enough. I heard that your highness has established a Butian pavilion? Chu Yang asked gently. Then he rolled his eyes and said indifferently, since we want to cooperate, we should trust each other. I want Butian pavilion. Tai Budian looked at him coldly. For a long time her eyes were cold and she didn't move. After a long time, Tai Budian stood up and walked slowly to the railing of the pavilion with her hands behind her back. She looked at the lake and didn't speak for a long time. A gentle breeze blew, causing his white robe to flutter. Before I was 11 I was just a child. My father was kind and loving and my mother was gentle. I also had an elder sister. Everyone treated me like a treasure. I was carefree and only knew how beautiful this world was. Tai Buqian's back was facing Chu Yang. Her eyes were already a little hazy, but her voice was still calm. Ever since I was born, my father had always been unhappy and had always blocked any news about me. At that time I didn't know why. That year my father was in golden armor and personally led the army into battle. In my eyes, my father was like a god of war in the heavens. He was invincible and undefeatable. However, in less than half a year the world suddenly collapsed. My father came back, but he was carried back and was on the verge of death. My mother went forward to serve him, but my father suddenly went crazy and stabbed her to death. He killed his beloved wife. 2 drops of tears flowed slowly down Tai Buqian's cheeks. Chu Yang's body shook and he couldn't help but raise his head. Hearing this he was also greatly surprised. Why did the Emperor of Iron Cloud Nation kill his own wife? Then, my father suddenly became a different person. He repeatedly issued decrees to execute my elder sister and brother-in-law's entire family. Then he ordered second uncle to lead an army of 100 battles to attack the palace and kill everyone in the palace. For a time, blood flowed like a river inside and outside the palace. Everyone knew that second uncle was going to rebel, but later they found out that he wasn't. Then, my father took my hand and said only one sentence to me before he fell into a coma. Tai Budian straightened her back and said in a low but trembling voice with determination and heartache, "From now on, you are called Tai Budian. The sky of Iron Cloud Nation has already collapsed. I hope you can mend it. You must always remember that to be a ruler you must be ruthless. You must be ruthless enough to kill your enemies, but you must also be ruthless enough to kill yourself." Then my father grabbed second uncle's hand and said, "I'll give it to you." Then my father fell into a coma and didn't wake up. Chu Yang frowned and remained silent. However, he was thinking in his heart. Tai Buqian's words were vague, but one thing was for sure. When the Emperor of Iron Cloud Nation killed his wife and daughter, his mind was completely clear. Even a tiger wouldn't eat poison. Why did he do this? Chu Yang faintly felt that there seemed to be a huge secret behind this. Tai Budian took a deep breath. I hated my father. I hated him for killing all my family members. But second uncle was very strict with me. He announced to the public that from now on, I was the Emperor of Iron Cloud. When I grew up, I would be the Emperor of Iron Cloud. From then on, second uncle invited countless teachers to teach me. Every day there would be at least 10 teachers waiting for me. Every day I would only get 3 hours of sleep. Even when I was eating and drinking, there would be people talking to me. If I couldn't remember, second uncle would beat me up. At that time there were 315 days in a year. At least 300 days my body was bruised and swollen. Second uncle was more strict with me than any other strict teacher in the world. Chapter 83. I thought that he regretted it, but only later did I know that he wasn't. Tai Buqian's voice was very soft as if she was sleep-talking. At that time I didn't understand. Since he had killed mother and my sisters, why was he crying? It's unbearable. Serves you right. Even now I still hate him. But after so many years, especially when I gradually became more sensible, I realized that I couldn't hate him anymore. Tai Budian kept her hands behind her back, letting the tears slowly flow down her face. Her eyes were complicated. It was only in recent years that I realized how much pain father had to suffer. As a father he had to endure so much. As a man he had to endure so much. And as a ruler he had to endure, even more. Tai Budian took a deep breath. And I had to learn things under second uncle's high pressure. Countless times I had to learn until I broke down and cried out loud. Then, second uncle would use his whip and fist to wake me up time and time again. Later on, not only did I have to learn things but I also had to learn scheming, tactics, martial arts and the mind of a ruler. Second uncle engraved the words that Imperial Father told me back then on my desk, hung it in my bedroom and placed it everywhere I went. Before every meal I had to recite these words. Second uncle fought on the battlefield, strategized and won battles from 1,000 miles away. He held the political and military power of the whole country. At that time he was so busy that he didn't even have time to talk to me. But every day he would ask my teachers what they had learned that day. Then what awaited me was a fierce beating, as if he would never be satisfied. Finally, I didn't dare to be lazy. Tai Buqian's throat made a gurgling sound as if she was swallowing something. I hated father, I hated second uncle. But one day I saw second uncle using the juice of the black demon flower to dye his hair. At that time, second uncle was only 32 years old. Second uncle was famous for his handsome looks in the whole of Iron Cloud. But ever since father fell ill, second uncle's white hair began to grow out strand by strand. In the end there were more strands than black hair. Second uncle had to dye his hair every once in a while. At that time I despised him. Why would an old man dye his hair black? But it was only later that I found out that second uncle was the pillar of the whole Iron Cloud nation when father fell ill and I was young. His health was Iron Cloud nation's greatest hope. If the soldiers find out that he has a head full of white hair, the blow to their morale will be unparalleled. Every day second uncle is full of vigor on the battlefield and the drill ground. When he walks he raises the wind. When he shouts he can make hundreds of thousands of soldiers tremble in fear. But every night when he comes home he can't even lift his feet. Even speaking was strenuous and his hands and feet were trembling when he was eating. He was a revered martial artist at that time. Yet I'm so tired every day. After I finally understood the pain and hardships of Father Emperor and Second Uncle, I began to wholeheartedly immerse myself in learning. Every time Second Uncle and Diwu Qingro fought a battle, they would come back and rehearse dozens of times with me. Finally, 3 years ago, I began to take control of the military and political affairs, and began my true career as an eunuch. At that time, I realized that before this, all the decisions were made by Second Uncle in my name. The entire Iron Cloud nation, even the whole world, knew that Iron Cloud had a natural-born king. Iron Cloud is full of hope. No one knows how this natural king managed to survive all these years. How can there be a natural-born king in this world? The road to becoming a king is so cruel. Tai Butian's voice became sorrowful and cynical. When I first took control of the government, I couldn't control anything well. Second Uncle was like a god, standing in the court every day. Anyone who was dissatisfied or doubted him, he would drag them out and behead them. At that time, Second Uncle was even more tyrannical than a tyrant. But when I truly took control of Iron Cloud, Second Uncle no longer appeared in the court. I heard that after he observed me for 3 months, he went back and said to Second Aunt, "I am relieved." Then Second Uncle fell asleep standing up straight. That time he slept for 3 days and 3 nights. Even his family was afraid. Tai Butian took a deep breath and exhaled. Iron Cloud's military and political affairs are finally on the right track. I started to establish Butian Pavilion again and recruited heroes. I hope that someone can help me. I really hope that someone can share some of the burden with me. Iron Cloud's stability, the millions of people living and working in peace and contentment, I don't know how much pain the upper echelons have to endure in exchange. I am too tired. Second Uncle is also too tired. Tai Butian said indifferently. His voice was very flat, but Chu Yang could hear the deep weariness in his voice. Second Uncle recommended you to me. Tai Butian did not turn around. He only said with certainty, "I trust Second Uncle, so I trust you. If you want Butian Pavilion, I can give it to you. But you can only start as a minister. I cannot directly give you a high position. I believe you understand this. I only need to wait for the day when you can convince the masses. Then I will give you all the information on Butian Pavilion. If you suspect someone, don't use him. If you use him, don't doubt him." After Tai Butian finished speaking, he floated away without looking back. He floated on the water. His white figure was like a white cloud in the wind. He flashed a few times and a few ripples slowly spread on the water's surface. He had already disappeared from Chu Yang's sight. He did not turn around. He did not want Chu Yang to see the tears on his face. Chu Yang slowly sat down. He was silent for a long time. He was digesting Tai Butian's words. Tai Butian's words were very sincere, very honest, and very touching. Chu Yang had once suspected that Tai Butian's purpose in saying these words was to recruit him to work for him. As a wily old fox who had lived 2 lives, Chu Yang recalled the dark soul poison that he had inadvertently learned in the upper 3 heavens in his previous life. He reviewed the entire conversation. Dark spirit poison bamboo was a strange martial art. It did not have any power, but it could see through every lie. This was a martial art left behind by the 3 Stars Divine Clan. It could guarantee that every person who had dark soul poison would not be deceived by anyone. But under the appraisal of dark soul poison, Chu Yang found that every word Tai Butian said was the truth, even though there were too many loopholes in his words and too many incomprehensible things. But things were just so strange. Anyone would be able to see the huge loopholes in Tai Butian's words, but they were 100% true. For example, why did the Emperor of Iron Cloud kill his beloved wife after being seriously injured? Why did he kill his daughter's entire family? Why did he massacre the imperial palace? These were all incomprehensible and unreasonable things. But they were the truth. Chu Yang also did not understand what was going on. Even though he had already experienced history, he still did not know. After all, Tai Butian had died too early in his previous life. He did not have time to explain anything. These were all filled with layers of fog. Chu Yang could only feel that this was filled with a mountain-like oppression and a deep pain as deep as the sea. Chu Yang thought for a long time and realized that his brain was still a mess. He simply gave up on continuing to think. The affairs of the emperor's family were originally unique. It was even more impossible to fathom the thoughts of an emperor. Especially if it was a baseless guess, there was even less hope. Chu Yang only knew that Tai Butian had agreed to his request for cooperation. During this process, Tai Butian did not even bargain. This was of course because Tai Butian was open-minded and tolerant. He indeed had the magnanimity of an emperor and the mentality of a gambler. Chapter 84. Tai Butian could clearly feel Chu Yang's intentions. Even though it was hazy, he was certain that Chu Yang did not have any intentions of harming him or Iron Cloud Nation, or using Iron Cloud Nation to achieve his hidden goals. Since he did not have any of these and Chu Yang had such amazing abilities, Tai Butian naturally had to take the risk. He needed help too much. It was too difficult for him to handle alone. He needed someone to share his burden, but in the entire court, there was no one who could share his burden. Because he was always the ruler and a subject was always a subject. But Chu Yang's appearance perfectly made up for this shortcoming. Chu Yang would never become his subject. But from this point of view, Chu Yang, who drifted between Jianghu and the court, was the best candidate to be in charge of Butian Pavilion. No matter who it was, Tai Butian would not be at ease with a powerful weapon like Butian Pavilion. Even though he established Butian Pavilion, he did not have enough power to manage it and expand it. That was why Tai Butian agreed to Chu Yang's request. Perhaps there were other reasons, but no one knew. Chu Yang thought to himself. But Tai Butian's childhood was really quite tragic. Even compared to the kings of other countries, he did not have a childhood. Just as Tai Butian said, the road to becoming a king was not just a little cruel. Your heavenly armament pavilion? What about it? When Chu Yang saw Tai Butian again, it was already afternoon. Tai Butian had already completely regained her composure and poise. She asked this question with a smile. Heavenly Armament Pavilion? Chu Yang originally wanted to incorporate Heavenly Armament Pavilion into Butian Pavilion, but he suddenly stopped and said, Heavenly Armament Pavilion naturally needs to exist, but it cannot exist in the form of a shop. That would be too wasteful. Your Highness, how about I place my Heavenly Armament Pavilion at Emerald Flow Lake? Emerald Flow Lake was a small lake in Iron Cloud Citadel. It was only a dozen miles away from Iron Cloud Citadel, but it was usually separated by many buildings, so it looked very far away. It was always a good place to play. Emerald Flow Lake? No problem. Tai Butian readily agreed. I will arrange this matter immediately. Tai Butian thought that Chu Yang was referring to those divine weapons. She didn't expect that Chu Yang was actually referring to Gu Duxing. It's too much of a waste to let a super expert like him, who has unlimited potential to develop, be idle like this. Chu Yang's face was expressionless, but his heart was overjoyed. Only he knew that Emerald Flow Lake was not just a place for sightseeing. In his previous life, he obtained the second fragment of the disaster sword at the bottom of Emerald Flow Lake. Now that he had taken over this place, all he had to do was wait until his cultivation level was high enough to break the seal on the second fragment. Then he would immediately take it out without anyone noticing. Calamity Sword Second Fragment. Chu Yang's heart was burning. The two of them boarded the carriage and continued on their journey. The carriage was completely covered. If someone were to look from the outside, they would never know that the Empress Dowager was sitting in this ordinary carriage. Although the space inside the carriage was not small, the two of them were not far from each other. Chu Yang could only smell a faint fragrance, like orchids and musk, slowly diffusing in the air. He couldn't help but sniff. He was speechless. Why would a man use perfume? Tai Budian seemed to have sensed something. She began to talk about random topics with Chu Yang. Tai Butian's knowledge was really profound. No matter if it was the heavens or the earth, ancient or modern stories or famous people's anecdotes, she was able to casually talk about them. Moreover, she was able to accurately comment on everything that was related to knowledge. In terms of knowledge, Chu Yang was far from being comparable to Tai Budian. He could only listen attentively. Slowly he became engrossed in the conversation. He was no longer surprised by the fragrance in the carriage. The carriage stopped. Tai Budian got off the carriage and entered a large house. This is the headquarters of Butian Pavilion. Tai Budian whispered as she walked. Chu Yang made an O sound. He was a little surprised. No matter who it was, once they heard the three words, Butian Pavilion, they would think that this was a pavilion. Who would have thought that it was just an ordinary bungalow? So the Butian Pavilion that Tai Budian built by the lake, the place where they first talked, was just a cover? However, Chu Yang still felt that that place was more in line with the words, Butian Pavilion. And this place was a little too ordinary. After entering the house, Tai Budian led Chu Yang into the main hall. Inside there were a few people talking. When they saw Tai Budian enter, they hurriedly bowed. This is Chu Yang, Senior Chu. Tai Budian introduced. From today onwards, Senior Chu is a member of Butian Pavilion. His temporary position is Minister of Butian Pavilion. All matters concerning Butian Pavilion, Mr. Chu may participate in the planning and decision-making. The faces of the 5 people in the room changed at the same time. Minister of Butian Pavilion was not a small position. If the words Minister of Butian Pavilion were removed, then he would be the Minister of Butian Pavilion. The minister was Tai Butian's position. His position was even higher than that of the pavilion master. Could this young man be the future minister of Butian Pavilion? They didn't expect that Tai Budian would bring such an important position with such a young man. Among them there were 2 pavilion masters from Butian Pavilion and 3 others. They were all martial great master experts. How could they tolerate a young man coming over and suppressing them? This is the pavilion master of Butian Pavilion, Ice Soul Revered Saber Master Cheng'ang. This is the vice pavilion master, Meteor Revered Martial Artist Chen Yu Tong. Tai Budian introduced them one by one to Chu Yang. The 5 people all smiled and returned the greetings one by one. Ice Soul Revered Saber Master Cheng'ang was about 10 years old. His body was thin as if a gust of wind could blow him away. His hair was a little white. Chen Yu Tong was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. He was about 45 years old and had a rough face. The two of them looked at Chu Yang with sparkling eyes. Their smiles carried a trace of alienation. After a simple introduction, Tai Budian brought Chu Yang into the inner room. This was a quiet room. Inside there were piles upon piles of documents. Here is the information of all the members of Butian Pavilion in Iron Cloud. Every one of them grew up. All their experiences are in here, including their personal strengths and martial arts realms. You can take a look. Generally, people below martial master level will not enter Butian Pavilion. People of unknown origins will also not enter Butian Pavilion. Tai Budian slowly said, currently there are 7 people. Among them, there is 1 revered saber master, 5 revered martial artists, 13 martial great masters, and the rest are all 4th grade martial masters. Their strength is a little weak. Too weak. Chu Yang shook his head. If this kind of strength was placed in any faction, no matter which faction it would be a very powerful force. But for a battle between 2 superpowers, it was too little. Especially in front of Diwu Qing Rose Golden Horse Riders Department, this kind of strength was not enough. It could be said that there was no possibility of comparison. One must know that Golden Horse Riders Department had already formed its own scale. All of its members added together were close to 30,000 people. Even if you exclude some internal personnel such as logistics, there were still 20,000 martial masters. Such a terrifying number, how could Butian Pavilion, which was still learning how to walk, compare to it? All along, Butian Pavilion has been my personal strength, and it has always been based on intelligence and strategy. The few times I tried to assassinate someone, they all failed and I lost a lot of people for nothing. Tai Butian slowly said, So, from that time onwards, I did not dare to expand. Chu Yang nodded. Even though Tai Budian did not say it clearly, Chu Yang could already tell. Butian Pavilion had a spy. As long as there was a spy and they could not be sure of who it would be a joke if they organized any more assassinations. It was the same as sending the lives of their subordinates into the hands of the enemy. This is the first problem you have to solve. Tai Budian said casually. Chapter 85. The second problem is that in my iron cloud, who knows how many spies Di Wuqingro has planted over the years. I estimate that many of them hold high positions, both in the military and in the government. Tai Butian smiled and said, Mr. Chu, you once said that if you want to settle the outside, you must first settle the inside. As long as you can complete the first task, which is to clean up Butian Pavilion, then the second task will also be given to you. The last task is to attack the military and politics of the two countries. However, the prerequisite is stability. There are many people who are not afraid of death. If you can maintain the balance until you kill everyone, then it is also a balance. Tai Butian smiled, but there are some people who can shake the world just by killing one. Chu Yang smiled strangely. He understood the meaning behind Tai Butian's words. In other words, if you can't even complete the first task, then you should get out of here as soon as possible. Don't think about being second or third. As for his so-called balance, it was not something he said out of emotion. It was about the current political situation of the two countries and the current political situation of Iron Cloud. Balance. For the current Iron Cloud, balance and stability were much more important than rapid development. This was also Tai Butian's bottom line. Mr. Chu, I will leave Butian Pavilion in your hands. Tai Butian walked to the door and looked back with a smile. Butian Pavilion, haha, you want me to mend the heavens here? Chu Yang laughed. If Mr. Chu wants to cooperate, then you must show your own skills and methods. Divine weapons are always external objects. Boasting and bragging are just armchair strategies. Tai Budian lowered his eyebrows and smiled. The current Butian Pavilion is Mr. Chu's true touchstone. Butian Pavilion has been established for 3 years, but it is only a prototype. Tai Butian smiled meaningfully and walked out. From the beginning to the end, Tai Butian only introduced Chu Yang. He did not support him at all. If Chu Yang wanted to gain a foothold here, he would have to rely on his own strength to stand firm. Only then would he be able to reorganize and cleanse the place. In the end, he would have to take control of Butian Pavilion to complete the first step of his cooperation with Tai Butian. With Chu Yang's strength as a martial warrior, he had to control Butian Pavilion, which was composed of martial masters. Moreover, he had to get this group of people who were familiar with each other to listen to his commands and establish his authority. This was an almost impossible task. However, Chu Yang had no way out. Now that things had come to this, Tai Budian had given him the courtesy that he wanted. He wanted Tai Butian's attention and Tai Budian gave it to him. The influence he had created had already been perfected. In fact, when he wanted Tai Butian's core Butian Pavilion, Tai Budian gave it to him as well. In Chu Yang's eyes, even though Tai Budian was a little effeminate and a little feminine and perverted, Tai Budian had given him the trust that Chu Yang wanted the most without reservation. Everything that Chu Yang had hoped for before coming to Iron Cloud had already been obtained. Now it was time for him to display his abilities. If he could not convince these people from Butian Pavilion, then it would prove that Chu Yang was not worthy of Tai Butian's trust. The current situation was that Chu Yang and Tai Butian had joined forces to push Chu Yang to the point of no return. Tai Budian had already been gone for a long time. Chu Yang was buried in the sea of information, analyzing it in detail bit by bit. These materials were just words and most of the words couldn't be trusted. However, Chu Yang wanted to find the truth and find the loopholes in this untrustworthy information. Only then could he have a preliminary idea of what to do. To find the untrustworthy information in the files that had already been filtered layer by wise and intelligent people, this kind of difficulty was indeed not small. However, Chu Yang's first step could only start from this aspect. Because he did not have the intelligence network like the heavenly net. The current him was still just one person. Chu Yang firmly believed in one thing. There was no unbreakable loophole in any organization. Under Di Wuqingro's plan, Tai Butian's side might not be flawless. On Tai Butian's side, the people in charge of screening might not be loyal. Chu Yang used an afternoon's time to go through the files of the 87 people of Butian Pavilion in detail. In just one afternoon, Chu Yang had completely memorized them. When he closed his eyes, the information of the 87 people revolved before his eyes, no matter how big or small. Then Chu Yang walked out. Minister. Seeing Chu Yang come out, Ice Soul Saber Venerable Qingong was the first to stand up. The people behind him also stood up. Compared to when Chu Yang came, there were 7 more people. Now there were a total of 12 people. These people looked at Chu Yang with some hostility in their eyes. There was also some vigilance and distrust. However, seeing his title of minister, they still stood up and saluted. Many people had a look of ridicule in their eyes. Obviously they were waiting to watch a good show. Minister Cheng, from now on we are all colleagues. There is no need to be so polite. Chu Yang's words made the dignified Ice Soul Saber Venerable twitch his mouth a few times. Did he really think he was a senior officer? That there was no need to be so polite? However, Chu Yang's first words were Minister Cheng, and not Senior Cheng. This showed that Chu Yang was doing things according to the rules of the secular world and not according to the rules of Jianghu. A higher official could crush people to death. Chu Yang's first words were a warning to Qingong. Even if you were a revered saber venerable, a revered level master. But this was the official world, under the command of the emperor. Even if a pale-faced scholar without the strength to truss up a chicken was your superior, you still had to be obedient. In Chu Yang's heart, he really did look down on this so-called revered level master. Since ancient times there were many revered level masters. Even though they were enough to dominate Jianghu, but, with so many revered level masters, how many of them coveted the glory and wealth of the secular world? Since you've given up your transcendent status in Jianghu to work for the secular court, then you're an official. You gave up that status, your state of mind has fallen. You are no longer a revered level master. Even if you have such a title, when facing a revered level master of the same level, Qingong had no hope of winning. Minister Cheng, please inform all of Butian Pavilion subordinates in Iron Cloud Citadel to gather here tomorrow morning. Chu Yang said casually, I am a new official, so I need to burn 3 fires. This is the custom of the official world. I hope that Minister Cheng can assist me. Qingong could not help but be stunned. This newly appointed foreign minister is very direct. Even if you want to burn 3 fires, you don't need to say it out loud like this, right? That night, when Chu Yang returned to Heavenly Armament Pavilion, he heard the sound of wind in the backyard. It was Gu Duxing practicing his sword. Chu Yang stood on the steps and watched Gu Duxing practice. His mind was in deep thought. Gu Duxing, should I put him out in the open? It had to be said that Gu Duxing's current battle strength could be considered a master in Iron Cloud Citadel. With him by his side, no matter what, it would be much easier to handle. After all, he was only a 4th-level martial warrior. Looking at the sword light in the backyard, Chu Yang finally shook his head. Gu Duxing, it would be better if he did not show himself. Butian Pavilion was Butian Pavilion, and Gu Duxing's strength was what he and Chu Yang could rely on to survive in Iron Cloud Citadel. Keeping a hidden trump card, no matter the time, would always be much more reliable than revealing one's strength. Brother Chu, you are back. Gu Duxing finished his sword practice. His clothes were soaked, his face was pale. He had used up a lot of energy. It seemed that he had already activated the revered Berserker sword technique. Regarding Chu Yang, Gu Duxing also felt strange. Chu Yang's age is much younger than mine. This is something I can confirm. But for some reason, every time he faced Chu Yang, he had a strange feeling that Chu Yang was much more mature than him. In terms of age, he was older, but Chu Yang never talked about age with him. This made Gu Duxing very depressed. What should he call him? You call me Brother Chu and I call you Brother Gu? Chu Yang naturally would not talk about age with Gu Duxing. If he talked about age, wouldn't he be lower? This was not a loss he could take. And Gu Duxing could not clearly see Chu Yang's strength. Was this young man a martial great master? Or a revered martial artist? In any case, Gu Duxing did not dare to guess any further. He could only guess upwards. Chapter 86. Yes, Brother Gu, our Heavenly Armament Pavilion is about to move. Chu Yang said casually, we are moving to Emerald Flow Lake. I have also accepted Butian Tai's invitation to join Butian Pavilion. Gu Duxing wiped his sweat. It was obvious that he had no interest in this Butian Pavilion. Brother Gu, I have an idea. Chu Yang and Gu Duxing walked side by side. As they walked, he said, in this world, no matter what, we must have our own strength. With just the 2 of us, it is a bit too weak. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. What do you mean? Whether it is to survive in this world or to make a name for yourself, you must have an elite team. Even in the lower 3 heavens, the situation there is much worse than in the lower 3 heavens. Plus, there is no imperial power. It is a place where only the strong are respected. This is even more necessary. Taking a step back, even if it is just to save Gu Miaoling, you still need strength. Chu Yang said, there are some things that I don't need to tell you. The Gu clan has its own successor. And you are the righteous of the Gu clan. For this matter, even if you become a sword emperor, if you want to save Gu Miaoling, whether the Gu clan agrees or not is another matter. What a clan needs to consider is the survival of the entire clan, not just one person. Gu Duxing's face became gloomy. Chu Yang was not wrong at all. In terms of age, by the time he reached the level of sword emperor, the two brothers of the Gu clan would already be in power. The two brothers would still be fighting each other to the death. How could they allow him to act recklessly in this place? However, if Gu Miaoling was rescued by him, firstly he would be a member of the Gu clan and not an outsider. Secondly, he would be a sword emperor and no one in the Gu clan would be a match for him. Thirdly, if he married Sister Miao, he would become the son-in-law of the Gu clan, and not an outsider. It would be strange if the Gu brothers did not guard against him. Therefore, this heavenly armament pavilion needs to become stronger. Chu Yang's eyes were deep, and you will be the first heavenly armament of this heavenly armament pavilion. If there is a first, then there is a second. Gu Duxing's eyes flashed. He showed a strong interest and said, how do you want to develop it? Heavenly armament pavilion cannot be shown to the outside. It can only be developed secretly. Chu Yang rubbed his chin and said, it's up to you to decide how to do it. I won't ask about this. Also, don't touch the heavenly armament pavilion's weapons for the time being. Leave it for our own people. As long as they are strong enough, we will give them the heavenly armament. This is a very good incentive. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up and he nodded vigorously. That's right. Our divine weapons are an irresistible temptation to any martial artist. Secondly, for the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's secret exhibition, we don't necessarily want experts, but we want people with great potential. Chu Yang smiled, but his eyes flashed like lightning in the night sky. Our future is not in these lower three heavens. One day we will rush into the upper three heavens. In that supreme martial artist holy land, we will have our own position. Since these people are part of our team, they will have to follow us. In the lower three heavens, I want to conquer the world. In the upper three heavens, I want to fight in the Jianghu. Even in the upper three heavens, I want to move unhindered and be insufferably arrogant. Gu Duxing's face lit up. His breathing was a little hurried. You mean, we don't want to follow other people's rules. We want to be the people who make the rules. Chu Yang said calmly, whether it is the lower three heavens or the upper three heavens. Good. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. Since you have such ambitions, then I, Gu Duxing, am not someone to be trifled with. Us two brothers, let's go all out and do something big. Chu Yang nodded and said deeply, I will leave this matter to you. In this period of time, we will be busy with Butian Pavilion. No matter what, our mission in the lower three heavens is to defeat Diwu Qingro. This will not change. Defeat Diwu Qingro. Gu Duxing muttered to himself and nodded. He did not know why Chu Yang was so obsessed with defeating Diwu Qingro, but he knew that since Chu Yang said so, he must have his reasons. The newly opened Heavenly Armament Pavilion only lasted for 3 to 5 days before it closed. Gu Duxing also immediately moved to Emerald Flow Lake. This guy's swift and decisive personality was revealed at this moment. With Chu Yang's large amount of gold and silver as a foundation, Gu Duxing immediately started to make a big move. He built a 3-feet-high wall around Emerald Flow Lake. He immediately took over this place for fun. Chu Yang did not know that Gu Duxing was doing all this. Chu Yang's original intention was to take over the big island in the center. He did not expect that Gu Duxing would use a feather as a token of authority and directly encircle it. Not only did he encircle the entire Emerald Flow Lake, but he also encircled Emerald Shadow Mountain, which was close to Emerald Flow Lake. Moreover, he encircled a few hundred acres of land around it. Even though this place did not have any residences or government offices, it was a beautiful place to visit. There were all kinds of shops such as brothels and gambling dens, all of which were profitable businesses. Gu Duxing's encirclement naturally made others unwilling, so they started to cause a ruckus. Gu Duxing's cold face was like that of a zombie overseer. His face told people not to come close. The officials from the Ironclad Citadel's inspection office came to ask questions, but they were all beaten back by Gu Duxing. He glared at them. This is the order of the Emperor. If you have the ability, don't come looking for me, go look for the Emperor. Aside from the money Chu Yang gave him to build the encirclement and hire workers, he did not spend a single cent. It was completely an empty deal. And at this time, Chu Yang, great official Chu, was taking over as a new official. 3 fires were burning hot. Today I have gathered all my colleagues here for 2 reasons. First, I am a new official, so I need to get to know you all. Once I am familiar with you all, it will be easier to carry out my work. Second, there are a few things I do not understand, so I need to ask all of you clearly. In other words, a new official will make 3 fires, and today I will burn all of them. The 2 pavilion masters were sitting next to him. On the side, there were a few people sitting with medicine boxes in front of them. Chuyang looked at the 85 people below. With a serious face and hands behind his back, he paced back and forth. With one glance he could tell that these 85 people, including Qingong and Qin Yutong, were not part of the group that welcomed Du Shiqing. Furthermore, those people appeared to be much more elite than these people. Tai Butian really did have a trick up his sleeve. Who am I? Even if you have not seen me, you must have heard of me. Compared to all of you, I am just a scholar with no martial skills. But since I have accepted your request, I must make Butian Pavilion the best it can be. I hope that all of you will cooperate and not make it difficult for me. Chuyang smiled coldly. If it is difficult for me, it will be even more difficult for everyone. I can guarantee this. There was a commotion below. Whispers could be heard continuously. All of the people here were Jianghu people. They all felt that Chuyang's actions were ridiculous. Trying to scare people? Which one of us is not putting our lives on the line? Can you scare us? A scholar? A scholar wants to control Butian Pavilion? Qingong and Qin Yutong looked at each other. They did not know whether to laugh or cry. Usually, a new official would make 3 fires burn, but to threaten like this. Official Chu was really the first person to do this. This is not Jianghu, there are no Jianghu rules. This is not an army, but the rules are much stricter than the army. Chuyang looked down and did not give anyone a chance to speak. From the very beginning he showed his extreme power. Next, I want to ask everyone who has any objections to my actions. If you have any objections, you can leave. I will not stop you. Another wave of bitter laughter. Once you enter this place, it is an absolute secret. If he backed out, it would be a dead end. Good. If no one has any objections, then it means that everyone agrees with my position. Then from now on, if anyone dares to go against my words, only death awaits. Chapter 87. No one answered. Everyone was looking at each other. It was as if Chuyang was singing a one-man show. Next, I will call out your name. Please step forward. Chuyang did not care. This was what he had expected. He picked up the name at the top of the file and read, Lu Zhu Guang. Below the stage, a one-eyed man reluctantly answered and stepped forward. Lu Zhu Guang, 3rd grade martial master from Wannan. 3 years ago you fought with an enemy and lost one eye. The enemy was Great Zhao's Clear Spring County's wanderer, Ping Wu-ing. Is that right? Lu Zhu Guang slowly nodded and said, Official Chu, this is something that everyone knows. What he meant was, it is useless for you to say this. Please step forward. Chuyang took 2 steps forward and placed his hand on Lu Zhu Guang's wrist. The Dark Spirit Great Technique and Heaven-Splitting Divine Technique were used at the same time. Lu Zhu Guang's wrist had just retracted, but Chuyang had already retracted his hand. His eyes suddenly turned into 2 cold swords. Your specialty is hidden weapons. You are a disciple of the Sun Clan of Wannan. The Sun Clan is famous for their hidden weapons. The Sun Clan's hidden weapons have a special characteristic. They are light on the left and heavy on the right. 3 on the left and 7 on the right. Together with their unique mental cultivation, they can fly out of the hand. Is that right? That's right. Official Chu is indeed brilliant. Lu Zhu Guang's words were either complimentary or sarcastic. However, his heart skipped a beat. This matter was related to the Sun Clan's martial arts. It could be said to be top secret, but Chuyang had said it out loud. However, although the Sun Clan's hidden weapons techniques are brilliant, there is a restriction to their light on the left and heavy on the right. Every Sun Clan member has a habitual action. When facing an enemy, their right eye is usually closed or squinted. In other words, they only use their left eye to aim at the enemy. In other words, the Sun Clan member's left eye is the most important. Without their left eye, their hidden weapons are basically useless. Although it is hard for the enemy to defend against it, it is also very demanding on the user. And you, Lu Zhu Guang, your left eye was the one that was blinded by the enemy. But your hidden weapons techniques are still very accurate. 3 on the left and 7 on the right. Why is that? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone present changed. They all understood the meaning of Chuyang's words. Lu Zhu Guang's expression changed and he said, It is precisely because my left eye is crippled that Zhu Guang painstakingly cultivated my right eye to replace my left eye. Official Chu, could it be that after a person falls once he can't get up again? Chu Yang didn't pay attention to his explanation and coldly said, but when I checked your meridians just now, the meridians of both your eyes are intact, and the meridians of your missing left eye are still intact. As we all know, no matter if it's a knife, a sword, or a fist, the damage to the meridians will spread outwards in a radial shape. In serious cases, the meridians of the entire brain will be destroyed and deformed. As for you, even the meridians around your lost left eye are still intact. However, in your report you said that Ping Wuying's fist smashed into your eye socket, causing your eye to explode. Ihi Lu Zhuguang, your enemy really cherishes you. He only blinded your eyes and did not damage your meridians in the slightest. A martial master like Ping Wuying is actually able to control his meridians with such precision. This is truly admirable. Our pavilion master Cheng is a revered saber master and such precise control. Lu Zhuguang, why don't you ask pavilion master Cheng if he can do it? Chu Yang sneered, the imperial palace has its own imperial doctors, and our Butian pavilion's doctors are right here. Every one of them can clearly examine you. Lu Zhuguang, what else do you have to say? When Chu Yang said this, the faces of Cheng Ong and Qin Yutong who were sitting on the stage changed greatly. What Chu Yang said was the basic principle of martial arts injuries. Every word was the truth, how could they not know? Crippling someone's eye without damaging their meridians? Not to mention a martial master, even revered saber master Cheng Ong would not have this kind of ability. Even a saber emperor would not be able to do this. To be able to do this, one had to be a martial monarch. If Lu Zhuguang's injury was really like what Chu Yang said, then there was only one possibility. Lu Zhuguang was a spy. This injury was intentional. Other than this explanation, there was no other reason. Lu Zhuguang took a step back. His face was completely pale. Beside Chu Yang, the white-bearded doctor had already stood up and was about to walk towards him. Lu Zhuguang's face showed a look of despair. He suddenly laughed out loud, not bad little kid, you are very powerful. I, Lu Xiaocheng, did not expect that you would be able to see through me. That's right, Grandpa's Lu Xiaocheng. The real Lu Zhuguang died in Grandpa's hands long ago. Haha, even though you exposed me, don't think you can get anything from me? In order to be a spy, you did not hesitate to cripple one of your eyes. Haha, using such a trick would naturally make people sympathize with you. Moreover, they would not check the injury of your eye. After all, to cripple one of your eyes to become a spy is an unimaginable thing. And you actually used this misconception to your advantage. Chu Yang sneered, but you did not expect that in front of me, there is no such thing as a misconception. Lu Xiaoqing sneered, so what? It's just death. Qing Yang's face turned bright red. He stood up angrily, Lu Xiaoqing? Bastard. Then, the 2 assassination attempts in Qingyang County were also because you leaked the information, causing them to fail on the verge of success? Lu Xiaoqing laughed out loud, meat delivered to my door, how can I not eat it? Qing Yang's whole body began to tremble. The 2 assassins who went to assassinate Great Zhao's generals, one of them was Qing Yang's brother. He did not expect that everything was under the control of the enemy. He went to die in vain. For a moment he could not help but hate so much that even his eyes turned red. At the same time, a deep sense of self-blame welled up in his heart. A spy was hidden in his own team and he usually thought highly of him. But now he had sent the lives of his comrades and his brother into the enemy's trap. I'll kill you. Qingong roared and was about to jump up. Wait, capture him alive. Qin Yutong hurriedly shouted. At this time it was more useful to capture alive than dead. Who knew if there were any accomplices among the more than 80 people? Ha, Qin Yutong, you don't need to be delusional. Since I have been seen through, I am not prepared to live. Lu Xiaoqing laughed wildly. Suddenly his body shook. His remaining eye rolled back and black blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He had hidden a highly toxic poison in his mouth. With a bang, Lu Xiaoqing's body fell to the ground. It twitched and then there was no more movement. Qingong roared and kicked the body of this Lu Xiaoqing. He shouted, check who this Lu Xiaoqing is. I want to destroy his entire clan. Qingong was ashamed and ashamed. A spy like this had been under his command for such a long time, and he did not know about it. Moreover, he had organized one operation after another, constantly sending the lives of his brothers into the enemy's trap. Furthermore, he had even sacrificed the life of his most valued younger brother. If Chu Yang had not caught this guy today, who knew how many times he would have fallen into the same trap? Everyone looked at Chu Yang with a different expression. This newly appointed guest minister was really not simple. On the first day of his appointment he had already caught the spy. This was tantamount to saving their lives. Who knew who would go next? Maybe it would be their turn. But no matter who went, it would be a dead end. Wait! Chu Yang shouted in a deep voice. What other orders does Minister Chu have? Cheng Ang's attitude towards Chu Yang had already taken a 310-degree turn. He had seriously neglected his duty, but Chu Yang had corrected his mistake. Although the other party was only a teenager and his martial power was low, but his keen observation and superior intelligence made people admire him. Chapter 88. Although there were still some knots in his heart, the feeling of resistance had lessened a lot. Lu Shaoqing is not necessarily his real name, right? Chu Yang sneered. Since this kind of death warrior has already been exposed and committed suicide on the spot, why would he leave his real name as a clue for us to investigate? If we investigate again and again, I'm afraid we'll be led to another group of powerful enemies. We have to be careful about this. Minister, you're right. Cheng Ang was shocked and said seriously. He couldn't help but admire this young minister more and more. Vice Pavilion Master Chen Yutong also revealed a thoughtful expression. What we need to investigate is this person's appearance, martial arts background, and physical characteristics to confirm this person's identity. His testimony cannot be trusted. This is the first step. Chu Yang said, the second step, although the name Lu Shaoqing cannot be trusted, there is one person who can be trusted. That is Clear Spring County's wanderer Ping Wu-ing. This person must be captured. At that time when we were investigating this spy, we must have investigated Ping Wu-ing. And Ping Wu-ing must have given a definite answer. In other words, Ping Wu-ing must have been involved in this plot. Although he is not the mastermind, he is definitely the enemy. Ping Wu-ing and his clan must not be let off. Yes. Chen Yutong said, I will immediately arrange for people to capture Ping Wu-ing and interrogate him severely. No need. Just kill him with a knife. Interrogation will not yield any results. Chu Yang said with certainty, for a conspiracy between two countries like this, Ping Wu-ing is not qualified to participate in it. I estimate that when we catch him, it will be the end of the line. Don't have such extravagant hopes. We have to give it a try. Who knows, we might be able to catch a big fish, Cheng Ang insisted. For such a big mistake, only by atoning for it with merit could he make up for it. And Ping Wu-ing was the most direct opportunity. Therefore, Cheng Ang would not let go of such an opportunity. Up to you. Chu Yang said casually. Also, Wannan Sun clan also gave this person a family certificate. In other words, the Sun clan is also one of the participants in this conspiracy. Chu Yang's eyes turned cold. He slowly scanned the faces of everyone present and said softly, the Sun family of Wannan must be eliminated. Whenever his gaze landed on someone's face, that person would feel as if they were being stared at by a cold, venomous snake. They couldn't help but shiver all over. And when Chu Yang spat out the words eliminate, his murderous aura also overflowed, making people shudder in fear. I'll have to trouble Lord Cheng with this matter. Chu Yang nodded at Cheng Ang and said politely. Although his tone was polite, it was an order. This was Chu Yang's second probing move after the first one. To fully control Butian Pavilion, Cheng Ang's attitude was extremely important. A look of struggle appeared on Cheng Ang's face. His expression changed several times before he slowly lowered his head and said, leave it to this old man. Chu Yang smiled with satisfaction and said, as for the clue that we found the spy, it will be completely abandoned from today onwards. It can no longer be used. Can we use that clue to beat the enemy at their own game, and make a profit? Chen Yutong pondered and asked. No. We cannot guarantee that there are no spies among the remaining people, but as long as there are, the news of today's purge will spread. Then the enemy will also use that clue to beat us at our own game. This is a dead end. Chu Yang's expression changed. It seemed that this Chen Yutong still had some brains. It was just that he didn't see enough. Yes, the minister's words are reasonable. Chen Yutong's forehead was sweating profusely. You really didn't think of this. Chu Yang casually picked up the second file. His gloomy eyes swept through it and he slowly asked, Meng Yude, who is this? In the third row below the stage, a bearded man's face suddenly turned ashen. The people next to him all turned their heads and looked at him. Their eyes revealed a strong sense of alertness. Chu Yang's clear eyes looked at the face of this man named Meng Yude. He quietly asked, Meng Yude, Do you want to commit suicide now or wait for me to expose you before you commit suicide? The whiskers on Meng Yuda's face trembled. He suddenly took a step forward and sternly said, "Pretty boy, don't think that you're some minister just because you've flattered the crown prince, and made His Highness the crown prince favor you. This old man has always done things with a clear conscience. Out of the dozens of Butian Pavilion missions, the only one who successfully assassinated a target and escaped unscathed was me. This old man gave his all, risked his life for Iron Cloud, and you dare to say that this old man is a spy?" When he said this, everyone suddenly remembered. In the first 7 assassinations, only Meng Yuda's group successfully completed the mission. The other groups were completely wiped out. Moreover, at that time, Qing Ang and Qin Yutong held a celebration party for Meng Yuda and promoted him from a small team leader to a small team leader. How could he be a spy? Lian Qing'ang also frowned as he looked at Chu Yang. This Meng Yuda was an expert that he wanted to promote and train. If this person was really a spy, then he would really lose all his face. Chu Yang calmly looked at him. After several assassination attempts, the 4 groups in the southeast direction all failed. Only you, Meng Yuda, went to the southeast and succeeded. That is where Lu Xiaocheng's information was concentrated. It is also the territory of the Sun family in Wannan. Not only did you complete the mission, you returned safely without any losses. Let me ask you, the others all met with mishaps. Why did you come back alive? The other 4 groups' martial arts were not lower than yours. They also had more people than you. Moreover, their targets were much weaker than yours. Without exception, they all failed. You came back victorious. Could it be that this Lu Xiaoqing only knew about the plans of the other 4 groups and did not know about your group? This is impossible, right? If I remember correctly, you and he belonged to the second group. These plans were made after the second group accepted the mission. In other words, Lu Xiaoqing clearly knew about this plan. Before he could confirm that person's true identity, Chu Yang could only call him Lu Xiaocheng. Chu Yang coldly looked at him. Your luck is that good? Qing'ang sighed heavily. His face was ashen. From this point of view, this Meng Yuda was very suspicious. Could it be that my personal ability is not good enough? Meng Yuda put on a look of righteous indignation, but his eyes secretly flashed with a trace of panic. No. Chu Yang slowly shook his head and said with certainty, You are a spy. You say I am a spy? Show me the evidence. Meng Yuda shouted. Even though we are part of the Iron Cloud government, I am not an arrestor of the Ministry of Justice. Chu Yang said lightly, I only need to suspect and I can kill. What evidence do I need? Come, take him. Once the order was given, 2 people immediately jumped at Meng Yuda. One of them was Qing'ang. Qing'ang was already seething with anger. He did not expect that when Chu Yang gave the order, he would rush out in front of so many subordinates. At this moment, he had already admitted that he was Chu Yang's subordinate. This was equivalent to completely confirming Chu Yang's position. Cheng Yang's face had already turned into the color of pig liver. He was so angry that the skin on his face was about to burst. If this Meng Yuda was a spy, then there was a spy right under his nose, and there was more than one. And he had helped the spy get promoted and become rich, and considered the spy his confidant. Chapter 89. Wait. Meng Yuda shouted, This pretty boy is just spouting nonsense. Do you really believe him? For a new pretty boy, you want to kill a brother who has contributed so much? Meng Yuda, if you weren't a spy, I would have cleared your name no matter what. What are you afraid of? Chu Yang said coldly. Meng Yuda was stunned. Suddenly he laughed and said, Since Tai Budian is using such a pretty boy to hold power, where is there a place for us? I don't want to argue. I'll take my leave now. Suddenly his body shot out of the window like a shooting star. But someone was faster than him. In a flash he was already standing at the window. It was Deputy Pavilion Master Qin Yutong. With a bang the 2 palms collided. Qin Yutong's body shook violently. His face turned green. He suddenly shouted angrily, You are obviously a martial great master. Why have you been pretending to be a martial master? He had always thought that the other party was a martial master and only used 30% of his strength. He didn't expect the other party's strength to come at him like a raging wave. He didn't have time to activate his internal energy and almost suffered a great loss. As soon as he said this, the atmosphere that had been stirred up by Meng Yuda suddenly became serious. Just the fact that he was hiding his strength was already very suspicious. Meng Yuda landed on the ground and staggered. Suddenly he laughed bitterly and said, Forget it, forget it. Since you don't believe me, I'll just die and be done with it. If I can't even believe my own brother, What else in this world can make me reluctant to leave? As he said this, he raised his palm and hit the top of his head. On his face, there was a disheartened look. Brother Meng, wait. A burly man beside him suddenly took a step forward and reached out to grab his wrist. He said anxiously, there will always be a day when the truth comes to light. If you are innocent, you will be innocent. Why do you have to be so reckless? Before he finished speaking, Meng Yud flipped his wrist, and the palm that was originally slapping towards his head suddenly grabbed out, grabbing the burly man's wrist. His right hand touched his waist, and with a clang, there was a flash of brilliance, and a long sword was already placed horizontally across the burly man's neck. Let me go. Meng Yuda laughed sinisterly, otherwise I can drag one of you down with me before I die. You'd rather kill and threaten than stay and explain. If it's not a spy, then what is it? Chu Yang looked at him from afar. Using a strange rhythm, he slowly said, Meng Yuda, although you are a spy, I have to admire you. Great Zhao's selection of spy candidates is also very good. Where did they find you, bunch of tough bones? Meng Yuda sneered. Holding the sharp blade, his eyes flashed as he slowly moved towards the door. He replied unconsciously, how can there be anyone under Lord Diwu who is afraid of death? As soon as the words left his mouth, his expression changed drastically. In the main hall, everyone snorted angrily at the same time. With these words, he had admitted his identity. As expected, he is a JN spy. Chang'an was so angry that he almost vomited blood. A feeling of shame suddenly rose up. At this moment, he was so depressed that he wanted to commit suicide to atone for his sins. But Chen Yutong looked at Chu Yang in surprise. This Meng Yuda had a strong will. He was still struggling to survive even in such a desperate situation. He was obviously a vicious and evil person. Such a person would usually be very tight-lipped. Why did he reveal a flaw after Chu Yang said a few words? Chu Yang's face was indifferent, but his heart was laughing coldly. His soul had merged with the underworld spirit Dharma body and he had used all his mind power to say those words. Moreover, at such a critical moment, when Meng Yuda's nerves were the most stretched, he suddenly said such a sentence with a strong hypnotic intent. Meng Yuda's mind was still focused on the surrounding movements. How could he have the time to defend against Chu Yang's mental attack? Naturally, he said what was in his heart. But this sentence caused him to be doomed eternally. No need to worry. Kill the two of them together. Chu Yang looked coldly at Meng Yuda, who was moving towards the door while holding the big man hostage. He said coldly, he didn't hold others hostage but held this person hostage. Just now, they were already enemies, but this person actually went forward to be held hostage? And it was so easy to get him? What's the point of playing such a clumsy trick? Kill them both. When this sentence came out, everyone was stunned. Meng Yuda and the big man he was holding hostage were stunned at the same time. Then the two of them suddenly roared and separated. They pulled out their swords and sabers and rushed out. This kind of action confirmed Chu Yang's guess. It made the people who were doubtful at first understand. No wonder this big man was so cooperative. No wonder he took a hostage the moment he made a move. No wonder Meng Yuda and the big man had no choice but to risk their lives. Since Chu Yang had already spoken these words, it meant that he had already seen through their disguise. Moreover, Chu Yang's words were still ringing in their ears. I only need to suspect you to kill. Why would I need any evidence? It gave the two of them an illusion. No matter what, there was no way they could survive. They might as well let go and fight to the death. Even if they died, the news would spread and their families would be safe. Moreover, they might not necessarily die. Because they were already at the door. They only needed to move forward 10 feet and they would be able to escape. Even though they might not be able to survive, it was much safer than being trapped in this hall. The two of them thought they had succeeded and were secretly delighted. However, they did not expect Chu Yang to expose them. But the distance was not far. As long as they risked their lives, they might be able to get out. As long as they could get out of here, they would naturally be met in Ironcloud Citadel. Chang'an roared. Suddenly, a bright saber light appeared in the hall. The saber light flashed and 2 short screams were heard. At the door there were 4 bloody corpses. Chang'an stood at the door with a saber in his hand and a murderous look on his face. 2 Jains were killed by him with a single slash. Minister, I accept my punishment. Chang'an turned around and faced Chu Yang. He did not raise his head as he spoke with difficulty. His voice was dry. Chang'an's heart was ashamed to the extreme. Just a moment ago he was almost fooled again. If Meng Yuda used his accomplices to escape, then his accomplices would still be here. The danger to Butian Pavilion would not be reduced. He hated himself for almost being fooled. If Chu Yang was not here, then he would have been fooled. There were so many spies in his team. He was muddle-headed and could not see people clearly. He was fooled like a clown. How could he still have the face to be the pavilion master of Butian Pavilion? Don't apologize. This matter is not over yet. Chu Yang coldly looked at him. Looking at the stack of documents in his hand, he casually picked one up and casually read it out loud. Who is Feng Qingji? Stand up. Kill yourself or be killed. Choose one. In the end, Qing'ang and Qin Yutong almost wanted to find a crack in the ground and hide in it. Including the two of them, there were 87 people in total. Chu Yang actually found one. No matter which one it was, the evidence was conclusive. Even if there was no evidence, Chu Yang's mental and psychological methods made it clear. The most amazing thing was that when it came to the first person, Chu Yang did not even read the name. He only glanced around. The last person looked left and right, then smiled bitterly and walked out. It will be published on the 1st of next month. I hope everyone will support it. I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. When it is published, it will also be the time when the first big secret will be revealed. I believe that I will not be wrong. I will not be wrong. This book is an adventure. Those who are familiar with my brothers and sisters should be able to see what I am doing. Yes, in this book I am trying to be resourceful, to be in control, to see the whole situation. From this book onwards, I will not look at the whole world with one person's eyes. What I want is to have a more comprehensive grasp, to be able to improve myself. This book was the real control I had over the world I had created in the book. I really hope to let our main character, Chu Yang, control the heavens. Complete control and not just a simple conquest. Therefore, this is what I thought and this is what I wrote. Therefore, I hope that everyone can understand and accompany me. Together. I hope that after the heavy foreshadowing, there will be a blossoming climax. It will be completely gorgeous and rotten. Brothers and sisters, who is willing to accompany me, to conquer the heavens. Chapter 90. This guy looked at Chu Yang and gave him a thumbs up. Minister, you are really good. Even as a spy, I only know one person's identity. You actually managed to identify all of them without missing a single one. What is even more outrageous is that you only looked at the information and found all of them. Just based on your eyesight, I am convinced. Chu Yang closed the file and waved his hand. He raised his head and looked at this person. This time, without waiting for others to do anything, Qin Yutong personally took the file back. In just one day, Chu Yang had established his absolute authority. Without mentioning anything else, the existence of these spies could completely bury all of these people. As long as they did not make any big mistakes, they could continue to be spies. Chu Yang had saved all of their lives, and not just once. Regardless of whether Chu Yang was young or not, and regardless of Chu Yang's cultivation level, his eyesight alone could be said to be unparalleled in the world. Chu Yang did not even move a finger, nor did he display his martial strength, but he was able to subdue this group of unruly Butian Pavilion members. You're also a spy? You admit it yourself? That's good, it saves me a lot of trouble. Chu Yang smiled and said, or, can you tell me something? That person smiled and said, you did not ask those people before. Since I am standing out myself, you should not ask. Chu Yang nodded his head in understanding. The moment he saw this person calmly stand out, he did not have any hope. This person was clearly prepared to die, that was why he was so calm. Chu Yang gently tapped the table with his finger and slowly said, I understand. You people, other than Di Wuqing Ro's absolute loyalty, your families, children, and elders are all in the hands of others. For the time being, we do not have any ability to save them, so we do not have the conditions to instigate your rebellion. That is why I will not ask. Since it is like this, I will not ask you. If a person wants to commit suicide, it is quite easy. Chu Yang smiled. Butian Pavilion really has a good leader. Minister Chu's schemes and eyesight are not much different from the legendary Di Wuqing Ro. In fact, I really want to see you guys fight and see who will be the final winner. Unfortunately, I will not be able to see it. The man smiled as he spoke, but a trace of black blood was slowly seeping out from the corner of his mouth. Before he stood up, he had already bitten open the poison sac. Actually, we have never seen Di Wuqing Ro. That person looked at Chu Yang with a strange look in his eyes. Then he stood upright and stopped breathing. After a long while, his body fell down. However, his last sentence seemed to have a hidden meaning. The entire hall was filled with the smell of blood, and it was completely silent. Qing'ang and the others were stunned. These people were all spies, but none of them gave in. One by one they were dragged out, but they all died in front of him. Most of them committed suicide. What kind of methods were used to train such a group of people? This was especially true for the last one, who died with a smile on his face. Chu Yang looked at the corpse on the ground with a heavy expression. Diwu Qingrou's subordinates, how many of them are there? He suddenly felt that the name Diwu Qingrou was like a huge mountain in front of him. At first, Chu Yang only knew that Diwu Qingrou was unbelievably strong. But his evaluation of Diwu Qingrou had risen to an unprecedented height after today's events. An unprecedentedly strong opponent. Chu Yang smiled faintly. He gathered his thoughts and looked at the remaining people in the hall. He said, "There are still some left, but I do not have enough evidence here. For the time being, I will not call out names. In any case, there will not be any movements in the near future. I hope that the remaining people will voluntarily withdraw from Butian Pavilion as soon as possible. As for those who are in contact with Diwu Qingrou and have not made a decision, I also hope that you will make a decision soon." Pausing for a moment, Chu Yang slowly said, "Butian Pavilion was founded not long ago. We came here for two reasons. First, we want to make contributions in this chaotic world. Second, we want to earn glory and wealth for our families. However, being a spy, is not an easy thing to do. As long as you voluntarily withdraw, I will let bygones be bygones. As for those who voluntarily report, not only will they not be at fault, they will be rewarded. This seat solemnly promises this point here. Not only will I not pursue the matter, but I will also keep it a secret." As he spoke, his eyes slowly swept across the dozens of people below. Everyone who was looked at by him felt as if they were being stared at by a poisonous snake. A cold feeling rose from their tailbones all the way to the back of their heads. "From now on, I only have one afternoon and one evening." Chu Yang coldly said, "Pavilion Lord Cheng and below 2 people in a quarter of an hour. Everyone can go in and talk with me. From tomorrow morning, those who are indecisive will all be eliminated. I will not tolerate them." "Pavilion Lords, do you have anything else to add?" Chu Yang asked. His current question was somewhat hypocritical. But as soon as he asked, Cheng Ong and Chen Yutong straightened their bodies and said, "As long as Minister Chu makes a decision, we will follow it." Chu Yang smiled with satisfaction and said, "If that is the case, then from now on, I will wait for you at my place." After he finished speaking, he stood up and turned to leave. Behind him, everyone stood up at the same time and watched him leave. "This minister is really amazing." Someone muttered. "That's right. That eyesight and wisdom. There's really nothing to say. I don't feel guilty at all. But when he stares at me, I feel fucking lower my head. I feel guilty for no reason. Yes, I also have this feeling. I just don't know what level of martial arts this minister is at." Someone fancied endlessly. "TSK, you don't understand. You are simply nitpicking. With Minister Chu's brain, even if he doesn't know martial arts, what can he do? Haven't you seen Diwu Qingrou? That's true. But then again, this minister looks like he doesn't know anything about martial arts. He looks refined, weak and handsome. But one look at him makes people feel cold all over." As everyone was talking, they saw that Cheng Ong had already stood up and was walking towards Chu Yang's room. Suddenly, there was another round of discussion. "Guess how many people will be eliminated this time?" "Who knows? But one is already dead. My goodness, that guy was with us every day and we didn't even notice anything. To be honest, this minister really saved our lives this time. If we were to unknowingly go out on a mission like this." "Hiss, that's true. When you say this, the back of my neck feels cold." Not long after, Cheng Ong came back from inside and gave Chen Yutong a look. Chen Yutong sighed and also went inside. "Look, the 2 pavilion masters are already convinced. Since the establishment of Butian Pavilion, besides Butian Tai, who else can make the 2 pavilion masters so convinced? This minister is really not simple. TSK. What kind of joke is this? Right now we are fighting for hegemony. One person's bravery can only decide one place. But superior wisdom can decide the country and the world. How can this be compared? Submitting to a person like the minister without mentioning anything else, at least they won't die in vain." That makes sense. Chapter 91. As one person after another entered, Chu Yang began to observe from the outside. When he entered his own room, he was still probing. However, after everyone had gone through once, he still did not find anything. Perhaps there was nothing inside. Perhaps there was someone else, but it was a sly old fox who would not easily give himself away. Chu Yang did not have high hopes of finding anything, so he simply let everyone pass. After everyone had gone through once, it was already close to midnight. The people waiting in the hall did not dare to move, and no one said they were hungry. They just waited obediently. Chu Yang finally walked out with a heavy face. His heavy face made everyone nervous. They looked at Chu Yang's face. It seemed that the situation was not good. Could it be that there were many people in the dark? Under everyone's watchful eyes, Chu Yang finally opened his mouth. I am very sad. Chu Yang frowned and let out a long sigh. I thought that since everyone is from Iron Cloud, no matter how you look at it, you should have a passion and a deep love for your home and country. In front of you, our 2,800,000 brothers have already turned into souls, and I really did not think that we would. There was complete silence. It seemed like there really was such a thing. If you were from Great Jiao, then there would be nothing wrong with doing this. Because you are doing this for your country, for your home. But you are from Iron Cloud. For a few taels of silver, for the empty promise of others, you are willing to hand over tens of thousands of your countrymen to others? Let them trample on you? Let them humiliate you as they wish. Are you even human? Chu Yang seemed to be very emotional. His face was flushed red. The 70 or so martial great masters below kept quiet out of fear. I will say it again. If someone from Great Jiao committed such a crime, I will only kill him. But if it is someone from Iron Cloud, then I will exterminate his clan. Chu Yang asked sternly, Everyone, do you think it should be done or not? It should be done. The crowd below shouted. It should be done. For this kind of bastard who forgot his ancestors, exterminating his clan is already a light punishment. It should be written into the history books and be cursed for all eternity. Since everyone can realize their mistakes, I will not say anything more. I only hope that everyone can take this as a warning. Let bygones be bygones. Everyone must remember that this is the only time in your life. Chu Yang said these words in an extremely heavy and dignified tone. It was clear that the people below had never betrayed him, but they seemed to feel guilty after hearing his words. 2,800,000 brave souls have already been sacrificed, but I haven't done anything. Listening to the minister's words, it seems that there are still spies, and there are still people who are wavering. This was simply infuriating. Next, I will announce the new division of power in Heaven Mending Pavilion. From today onwards, Heaven Mending Pavilion will be divided into 3 large groups. The first group will be called Iron and Blood, and will be directly responsible to me. Iron Blood, the blood of Iron Cloud. What we need is unreserved loyalty. Chu Yang's eyes radiated a divine aura as he swept his gaze all around. He then said in a deep voice, Everything in this world must be governed by laws. If the law is not strict, there will be omissions. If there are omissions, there will be losses. Once losses occur, it will be everyone's lives. Our Butian Pavilion's main purpose is to kill people, not to do business. Everyone must understand this point. Therefore, no matter who it is, they must obey Iron Blood unconditionally. Yes, I will follow the minister's instructions. Establishing Iron Blood in Heaven Mending Pavilion is a matter of course. Chu Yang nodded. He only mentioned the first rule, and the entire Heaven Mending Pavilion was tightened by one step. Obey Iron Blood unconditionally. This phrase was not just for show. The second group will be called Fierce Blood. The fierce blood of Iron Cloud, ready to go on dangerous missions at any time. This is the fist of the entire Heaven Mending Pavilion. This group is the most important of the entire Heaven Mending Pavilion. Chu Yang's eyes were full of trust as he looked at Chang'an. He sincerely said, I believe that this great and difficult task belongs to none other than official Cheng. Chang'an was startled. He took a step forward and clasped his hands together. I will follow the minister's instructions. Chang'an actually saw through Chu Yang's intentions very clearly. Chu Yang wanted to gather all of Heaven Mending Pavilion's power in his hands. As long as Chang'an accepted the position of second group leader, then it would be the same as automatically resigning from the position of pavilion master. From then on, Heaven Mending Pavilion would no longer have a pavilion master, only a minister. But in the previous day, Chu Yang had not only established his own authority, but also suppressed the prestige of the 2 original pavilion masters to the point where there was nothing left. Now, even if the 2 of them were still pavilion masters, they would only exist in name, they would not have any authority. Plus, the 2 of them made such a big mistake, they did not have the face to stay in the pavilion master position. At this time they were full of guilt and regret. Chu Yang's request hit their weak spot. If they protested, they would probably be booed by the entire group. Therefore, this position of second group leader was something that Chang'an had to accept, even if he did not want to accept. Chu Yang's momentum had been established. Chang'an did not have the slightest room to fight back. Chu Yang smiled with satisfaction and said, "Official Cheng's martial power is extraordinary. You are a top expert in the world. I am completely at ease." "Thank you for Minister Chu's praise." Chang'an smiled bitterly, thinking to himself, "This guy degraded me to the point that I'm worthless, stripped of my real power, lowered my position and destroyed my reputation. Yet I still have to thank him. Motherfucker, this world is really wonderful. The third group will be called?" Chu Yang pondered for a moment. His eyebrows raised and he said decisively, "The third group will be called Tianji. All of Heaven Mending Pavilion's intelligence will be handed over to you. This is the lifeline of Heaven Mending Pavilion. If there is a mistake, it is our lives." Therefore, Tianji was the name of Mo Tianji. The master of calculation and manipulation Mo Tianji was the main culprit behind Chu Yang's death in his previous life. Chu Yang purposely used this name to call the intelligence department of Heaven Mending Pavilion that he was in charge of. There was still such a powerful enemy waiting for him in front. If he slacked off a little, he would be consigned to eternal damnation in Mo Tianji's hands. Mo Tianji's terror, no one knew better than Chu Yang. "Minister Chu, I am willing to take on the role of the third group's captain. I will help Bu Tianji and Minister Chu share the burden." Chen Yutong did not wait for Chu Yang to finish speaking. He took a step forward and volunteered. Chang'an had already given in. What else could he do? He might as well do a favor at no cost. Otherwise, in the future he would not even have a foothold in Heaven Mending Pavilion. This Minister Chu was personally brought here by Bu Tianji. It could be said that the entire Iron Cloud nation appointed him. Why do I have to go against him? Chen Yutong thought to himself. "Thank you, Captain Chen. Haha, I was just worried that there wasn't a wise and experienced leader in the Tianji First Bureau. Now that Lord Chen is willing to take up the role, I'm pleasantly surprised." Chu Yang said, overjoyed. Chapter 92. Good. Lord Chen is indeed a good man. Chu Yang praised. Then he changed his tone and said eagerly, "Lord Chen, this Heavenly Secrets Division must be careful. No matter what the news is, it must be true. What I want is 100% certainty. Only then can I arrange for the Fierce Blood Brothers to carry out the mission. If the Heavenly Secrets Division's responsibility is not small. Lord Chen, this is equivalent to the lives of everyone in Butian Pavilion in your hands. The burden on your shoulders is not light." Chen Yutong was furious. This guy's mouth is so dignified, but in reality he is still seizing power. 100% certainty? This kind of thing, who can be 100% sure? Not to mention assassinating the enemy's generals. Even marrying a wife could cause impotence at night. Once there is any news, this big captain will immediately discuss it with Minister Chu. Then we will carefully analyze the pros and cons together with Minister Chu. We will create a perfect plan. Chen Yutong swallowed his anger and said, "When the time comes, I hope Minister Chu can take some time out of his busy schedule to ask about the Heavenly Secrets Division's intelligence for the safety of our brothers." Chen Yutong had already fallen from his position as the Vice Pavilion Master. By saying that, he was basically handing over his position as the head of the intelligence agency to someone else. It meant that he was just a machine that collected intelligence without any decision-making ability. This. Chu Yang's face was awkward as he said, "Lord Chen, there is no need to be like this. I was just saying. There is no other meaning. Besides, I am in charge of Iron Blood and the overall situation. I'm already very busy. I am afraid I may not have the time. I hope Minister Chu can consider the overall situation. Think about our brothers." Chen Yutong was cursing this guy's shamelessness in his heart. "It was clearly you who forced me to give up my power. Now you are still hypocritically making all sorts of excuses." Sigh. Chu Yang sighed and said reluctantly, "Since it is like this, forget it. I will fight with these old bones." The people below all curled their lips. "Next, I will announce the division of the three big teams." Chu Yang quietly got rid of 2 pavilion masters and let them be the big team leaders. With all the power in his hands, he was secretly happy. However, the way Chu Yang casually assigned them made it seem as if he had been with these people for decades. What a person was good at, what a person wasn't good at, which person would be able to make the most out of the 3 brigades. Everything was in order. Every one of them was assigned to a position most suitable for them. The three groups of people stood separately in the hall. Their roles were clearly defined. One could imagine how much more effective this division of labor was compared to when everyone was squeezed together to eat from the same big pot. Cheng Ang and Chen Yutong had some complaints in their hearts, but after seeing such a distribution, they couldn't help but be convinced. Without anyone noticing, Chu Yang completed his control over Butian Pavilion. Chu Yang looked at heavenly secrets, but in his heart he was wondering how things were going on Gu Duxing's end. Within the imperial residence. Frowning, Tai Budian looked at the person before her. Wait a little longer. Opposite him sat two officials in luxurious robes, looking anxious. Both of them came because of Gu Duxing's occupation of Emerald Flow Lake. After all, Gu Duxing used a chicken feather as an arrow to command authority. They didn't dare to act rashly and could only come to ask for instructions. Who knew that since they arrived in the afternoon, it was already late at night? Tai Butian's attitude was extremely ambiguous. She didn't say yes but also didn't say no. She just kept saying, wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. She had already said wait a little longer more than 10 times, but the two of them were not allowed to leave. Every time the two of them asked to go back, Her Highness would only say, wait a little longer. Their hearts were already like 15 buckets of water, up and down, up and down. Finally a voice came from outside. Reporting to Her Highness, Official Cheng requests an audience. Please enter the side hall. Saying this, Tai Budian slowly stood up. Please wait a little longer. I will be back soon. The two officials hurriedly nodded and smiled. She is very busy, please go ahead. Tai Budian nodded and walked out. Side hall. Cheng Ang strode in. After bowing to Tai Budian, he wanted to say something but stopped. How is it? Tai Budian asked quietly. He is too good at reading people. Cheng Ang stammered for a long time before finally squeezing out a sentence. The current Butian Pavilion is already his world. Oh? He used his martial strength to intimidate? No, he found a traitor. He executed us on the spot and cut the Gordian knot with a swift knife, taking away my and Chen Yutong's power. From the beginning to the end he was just a weak scholar. Cheng Ang sighed, his face full of shame. Tai Budian raised her head in shock and murmured, so fast. Yes. And the brothers below are all sincerely convinced by him. Sincerely convinced. Tai Budian stood up and paced back and forth a few steps. He also believed that Chu Yang would definitely be able to gain control of Butian Pavilion. But he really didn't expect it to be so fast. Moreover, he actually achieved such an effect without using his martial strength. This gave him a new understanding of Chu Yang's ability. After thinking for a while, she said, you can go. Watching Cheng Ang walk out, Tai Budian raised her head and thought quietly. She murmured, since he has such ability, then why not give Emerald Flow Lake to him? What's the harm? You must know that if you suspect someone, don't use them. Chu Yang and Tai Budian first agreed that Emerald Flow Lake would only be a part of it. But now Gu Duxing had completely taken over Emerald Flow Lake. This was worlds apart from the agreement. Even though it was beyond her expectations, Tai Budian still gave it to her. She was just waiting to see if Chu Yang could control Butian Pavilion. That was all. If he didn't have the ability and couldn't control it, then she wouldn't give anything. But now that Chu Yang had such ability, even if Chu Yang asked for the whole world, as long as Tai Budian could afford it, she would give it to him. The two officials in the hall communicated with each other with their eyes. They both had a bad premonition. It seemed like this Emerald Flow Lake official had really spoken. But, if it was true, the official only needed to say a few words to suppress this matter. Why drag it on like this? I've made the two of you wait for a long time. Tai Budian walked over slowly and said with a smile, I've been caught up in some trivial matters and couldn't help myself. Please forgive me. The two hurriedly said they didn't dare. You were talking about Emerald Flow Lake, right? Tai Budian rubbed her forehead and said in distress, my memory is not very good. Yes, about Emerald Flow Lake. What instructions does the Grand Prince have? I heard that person's attitude was very bad? Tai Budian frowned and asked with some displeasure. Grand Prince, that young man is really unreasonable. He actually sealed off the entire Emerald Flow Lake and made it his own. Moreover, he told the public that it was the Grand Prince's idea. This matter has caused a lot of public anger. If it isn't stopped soon, I'm afraid it will cause a big commotion in the capital. The person who spoke in front of Tai Budian was a fat man. Tai Butian's displeased tone and expression seemed to give him some kind of hint. He thought that Tai Budian was dissatisfied with that guy and couldn't help but feel emboldened. Great public anger? 'Cause a big commotion? Tai Budian raised the corner of her mouth and revealed a mocking smile. Official Wang, you are a great scholar. When I was young I was taught by you and learned a lot. But when you say the words great public indignation, I am greatly disappointed. Official Wang was stunned and said, Grand Prince, I don't understand. He thought to himself, could it be that I guessed wrong? Chapter 93. Official Wang's face immediately turned pale. How could he not know what Tai Butian was implying? The right prime minister was originally sentenced to be banished into the army. However, he died in prison without knowing why. After that, although Emerald Flow Lake appeared to be ownerless on the surface, it secretly belonged to your Wang clan. Tai Butian said indifferently, Official Wang, there are dozens of shops and properties around Emerald Flow Lake. There are 18 of them, but 37 of them have the surname Wang. However, the court has never bothered with this matter. First of all, the recent years have been filled with internal and external troubles. Second of all, the 3 people from the Imperial Censorate also have properties in Emerald Flow Lake. Although it is not much, it is enough to divide the remaining 31 families equally. Aha, the annual income is not small. It is very impressive. Third, I also hope that there will be a day when you can turn back. After all, it is not easy for Iron Cloud to train an official in the Imperial Court. Your own abilities are only one aspect. There is also the support of the Imperial Court, the reputation of the people, and your achievements. For the country and the people, you have made contributions. Tai Butian's tone was already tinged with coldness. The 2 officials trembled from head to toe. Their faces were dripping with sweat, and they felt as if their heads were spinning. This Emerald Flow Lake became the place where the 7 of you got rich and divided the spoils. Now, when the Imperial Court wants to expropriate it, you actually talk to me about the anger of the people. Where did this anger come from? Are you saying that the anger of the people is just the anger of the few of you? You want to manipulate the people's opinions to affect my decision. Tai Butian's eyes turned cold. He coldly shouted, Wang Ji, do you really think that I am easy to bully because I am young? With a thump, the 2 trembled like sieves. Their legs felt weak. They finally could not stand and knelt on the ground. Tai Butian said coldly, What is it? Do I need to ask for your permission to expropriate Emerald Flow Lake? We do not dare. The 2 kowtowed like they were pounding garlic. At this moment they were filled with regret. No matter what, they did not think that Emerald Flow Lake was really the intention of the Crown Prince. Moreover, the Crown Prince was so determined. Emerald Flow Lake is the property of the country. It is a scenic spot in Iron Cloud Citadel, but you are using it to fill your own pockets. This is ridiculous. As officials of the Imperial Court, all of you are receiving a salary from the Imperial Court, yet you still. This truly makes me feel extremely pained. Tai Butian painfully said, Forget it. After all, I am still an old official. I don't want to go too far. Official Wang, please inform the other families. Half of the profits from Emerald Flow Lake will be handed over to the National Treasury. Go back. Yes, thank you for your kindness, Your Highness. The 2 of them kowtowed again and again as sweat poured down like rain. It was as if they had taken a trip around the gates of hell. Do you still need me to send a copy of the account book to compare with these families? Just as the 2 of them were thanking her profusely and retreating out of the door, Tai Butian seemed to be muttering something to herself. Instantly, the 2 of them tumbled down the stairs again, battered and exhausted. Tai Butian's gaze turned cold as she watched the 2 of them leave in a sorry state. He had been waiting for news from Chu Yang. But he was also waiting for these people to tell him the truth. Now that she had ascertained Chu Yang's abilities, Tai Butian made her decision. If there was still no result, then Tai Butian planned to keep the 2 of them for another day. Butian Pavilion is finally taking shape. Tai Butian looked at the hazy moonlight outside the window and finally sighed. Since the establishment of Butian Pavilion, it was just a gimmick to prop up this structure. Tai Butian was a crown prince in name, but in reality he was a monarch. Where would he find the time to manage Butian Pavilion? Now that Chu Yang had arrived, it could be said that this gap had been filled. Uncle Ing, what do you think Chu Yang will do to Butian Pavilion? Tai Butian seemed to be talking to herself. The air in front of her suddenly became dense and fluctuated. It was as if the space in front of her had inexplicably distorted. An illusory shadow appeared just like that. It was like a ghost. With a dry and low voice it said, You shouldn't be asking me about this matter. I'm not asking you, but I want to see you. Tai Budian said softly, "You are my biggest support, but you are so unwilling to appear. After not seeing you for a few days, I kept wanting to talk to you. Only after confirming your existence will I be able to sleep at night." Ah. Ying's illusory eyes also seemed to fluctuate. He said hoarsely, "Your Highness, don't worry. With the two of us here, no one in lower three heavens can kill you." Tai Budian smiled and nodded. She muttered, "So tired." She slowly took 2 steps back and fell on the bed. She murmured, "Uncle Xing, you should also rest." The air was distorted again. Ing slowly floated and disappeared. Tai Budian had already closed her eyes on the bed. With Ing here, she was very relieved. Even though she did not know what level Brother Ing was at, one thing was clear. If not for Brother Ing, perhaps Diwu Qingro would have already taken her head. When Chang'an returned from Tai Butian's place, it was already the second half of the night. He walked to his room and was about to push the door open. Suddenly he was startled. He said in a low voice, "Who is in my room?" "It's me," a clear voice said. Then the candlelight in the room lit up. "So it's Minister." Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief. He pushed the door open and entered. In the room, Chuyang was sitting upright on a chair. His eyes were cold as he looked at Chang'an. "I don't know why Minister came in the middle of the night. What advice do you have?" Chang'an did not know why, but his heart was beating like a drum. Chang'an clearly felt that the opponent's strength was weak, and that he could kill him with just a stretch of his hand, but he felt a sense of wariness towards this seemingly weak youth. To him, this was truly an unimaginable thing. "I don't dare to give advice." Chuyang smiled and said, "It's just that in the afternoon my words were not very appropriate. Regarding the change of position, I did not inform Captain Cheng beforehand. My heart is very uneasy." "Not at all. Minister Chu's methods are brilliant. In one move, you caught the traitor and removed the hidden danger for Butian Pavilion. Moreover, you used thunderous methods to turn Butian Pavilion into a fighting force in the shortest time possible. I'm very impressed." Chang'an said with a smile. "Well, so you're saying that Captain Cheng approves of what I've done?" Chuyang smiled. Of course. I approve." Chang'an nodded repeatedly. He was still guessing Chu Yang's real purpose for coming here. His heart was a little nervous and a little guilty. His Highness did not say anything, right?" Chuyang said with a smile. He did not say anything. Chang'an said half of his words before suddenly coming back to his senses. He looked at Chuyang dumbfoundedly. His expression was as if he had seen a ghost. "It's good that he did not say anything." Chuyang stood up and nodded lightly. "Actually, I was hoping that he would say something." Official Cheng must be tired from running around. "You're already so old. Don't work too hard. Rest early." Just like that, he opened the door and left. Cheng Yang's head was full of cold sweat. His whole body was cold. Chapter 94. Ever since the matter at Butian Pavilion was settled, he left through the secret passage and went to the imperial residence as fast as he could. Then he told them everything in the shortest amount of time and came back as fast as he could. All of this took less than a quarter of an hour. But Chuyang already knew everything and was waiting for him here. Even if it was Tai Butian who informed Chuyang, it would not be so fast. Chang'an suddenly knew that this young man's thoughts were as deep as the ocean. In front of him, no one could hide. This time, even though he did not say anything, it was clear that he was here to give him a warning. "Your whereabouts are all in my hands. Do not have any devious ideas or you will regret it." That was what he meant. Chang'an let out a deep sigh as he watched the figure leave in a carefree manner. Walking in the night wind, Chuyang felt very refreshed. He had always been paying attention to Chang'an. Because he was 100% sure that Chang'an was Tai Butian's representative in Butian Pavilion. Chang'an might be an expert, but he was definitely not a qualified leader. The reason why he became the pavilion master before Chuyang came was, first, because his strength was the highest among the people present, and second, because he was reliable. Otherwise, Tai Butian would not let an outsider become the pavilion master of Butian Pavilion. Moreover, Tai Butian, the initiator, did not hold any leadership position in Butian Pavilion. That was because Tai Butian trusted Chang'an. Chuyang did not believe that Tai Butian would let Butian Pavilion go like this. Therefore, when the matter was over and Chang'an was nowhere to be seen, Chuyang knew that this guy must have rushed to report to Tai Butian. After all, such a big change in power in Butian Pavilion must be immediately notified to Tai Butian. Therefore, Chuyang went to Cheng Ang's room in advance to wait. This kind of feeling was not good. Yang wanted complete control. Having an informant by his side was not a good feeling. However, directly getting rid of him was obviously not possible. Therefore, Yang had to suppress this feeling and influence to the minimum. You are Tai Tai's person, fine. But with me, even if you are a dragon, you have to coil up. Even if you are a tiger, you have to lie down. If I don't agree, don't think about making any waves. Don't think that just because you are Tai Tai's most trusted person, this place is Tai's territory. Yang snorted twice. Then he let out a strange and sinister laugh. His sinister voice spread out in the night wind. A crying baby by the roadside suddenly fell silent. Walking all the way to Emerald Flow Lake, even with Yang's superior mental strength, he was still shocked by the situation in front of him. The wall-like perimeter wall had already begun to take shape. The originally quiet and elegant Emerald Flow Lake was now deep into the night, but it was still hot and humid. There were also many big and burly men carrying whips overseeing the work. On top of the pavilion on the island in the middle of the lake, Gu Duxing crossed his arms. His eyes were cold as he looked around. His gaze was as sharp as a sword as he stood motionless. He just stood there without moving, but the entire Emerald Flow Lake seemed to have entered a cold autumn. In the pavilion below there was a mess. Taking a closer look, it turned out that the bodies of dozens of people had been thrown there. They were not dead, but they were half dead. They were all moaning weakly, but no one dared to curse. One of the men moaned loudly. Gu Duxing on the pavilion frowned and coldly said, "Noisy." With a bang, half of a tile fell from the sky and hit the place where the man's leg was broken. Then the sound of cold air being sucked in could be heard. The extreme pain of wanting to cry out but not being able to make a sound rose up. Everyone at the side suddenly shuddered. Yang was confused as he walked closer. Then he suddenly slapped his head. "It's all my fault. I didn't tell Gu Duxing clearly that he only needed to occupy the center of the island. In the end, this guy actually occupied the entire Emerald Flow Lake. But this is too big, isn't it? You came?" Gu Duxing floated down from the pavilion like a cloud and stood in front of Yang. Other than the time when he got drunk and his face melted, he immediately regained his zombie-like coldness after sobering up. What happened?" Yang pointed at the surroundings. I occupied the entire Emerald Flow Lake." Gu Duxing casually said, "It looked like a lot of money. Plus we were in pursuit of speed. So, I hired all the construction teams that I could." Yang staggered. "Then what happened to these people?" He pointed at the group of people on the ground who had their limbs broken by Gu Duxing. "This is a small matter. It's not worth mentioning." Gu Duxing casually said, "I heard that this place used to belong to a few big officials. These people are their servants. Oh, most of them are housekeepers. Originally there were a lot of them, but they were all beaten back by me." Gu Duxing rolled his eyes and coldly said, "Just a few officials from a secular country. They actually dared to stop us from doing our job. Their guts are too big." Yang rubbed his forehead and carefully asked, "Did you beat anyone to death?" He secretly prayed in his heart that this master didn't beat a lot of people to death. If that happened, it would be really hard to clean up. Even if Tai Butian had to clean up after him, he still needed to be reasonable, right? Forcefully occupying other people's place and beating their people to death. It seemed like the side in the right wasn't on his side. Looking around, there were a lot of injured people, but there didn't seem to be any corpses. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Gu Duxing's words put Yang's heart at ease. He continued, "But I only killed a dozen or so people. It's not a big deal. Besides, it's bad luck to leave corpses here. I got people to take them away." Yang trembled and his face darkened. Finally, he was speechless and raised his thumb. "You're ruthless." "A great man has to be ruthless." Gu Duxing lightly said, "Whoever is ruthless enough will be able to live." Yang was speechless. He waved his hand and said, "I'm going to sleep." "Wait, what?" "It's your turn to watch for a while. I've been watching for a day. I'm going to practice my sword for a while and then rest." Gu Duxing left without looking back. Before he left, he said, "There's no place to sleep here. The previous ones have all been torn down by me. You can meditate." Yang ordered people to bring the injured to the shore. When he went to look for Gu Duxing again, he was already gone. Yang stood quietly for a while. Shaking his head, he found a secluded place near the water and sat down cross-legged. He activated the Heaven Tribulation Divine technique. For Yang, sleeping every day was the best time to cultivate. He would not give up on this little bit of time. As his thoughts sank into his sea of consciousness, Yang took a deep breath. Everything between heaven and earth seemed to return to silence. Slowly his mind became undistracted. The lake of his heart became tranquil. In this noisy construction site, he captured a tranquility that was similar to the tranquility of heaven and earth. On the other side, Gu Duxing, who was practicing his sword, was startled. He jumped out and looked at Chu Yang from afar. His heart was in shock. How is this possible? Only a fourth-grade martial warrior? Although Gu Duxing was practicing his sword, he had always been paying attention to Chu Yang's movements. Since the day he said the word brother, Gu Duxing's heart suddenly felt like it had something to rely on. He felt like he still had a relative in this world, Chu Yang. The two of them did not talk about age, but Gu Duxing knew that Chu Yang was younger than him. But Chu Yang, who he had never met before, gave him hope. Chu Yang helped him when he was at the end of the road and gave him the path to the peak. Since the day Chu Yang said, "Gu Miaoling cannot be let down, so I will help you." In Gu Duxing's heart, Chu Yang was not only his benefactor, but also his brother. A brother who entrusted his life to him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.